Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Board of Selectmen meeting dated August 13th, 2018. Before we get started, if we could all rise for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Lord God, we come before you, and most of all, Lord, we thank you for the many blessings you've bestowed on our community and the people that are willing to serve the town in any type of volunteerism or government. Lord, we just ask that you would guide this board with and give us extra measure of wisdom and discernment and when we attempt to govern in our community. And for all of us that have prayed with you tonight, we each pray to you in the way we were taught. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So I'd like to thank everybody for coming tonight. Welcome everybody in the audience and at home. We do have a full agenda tonight, and always try to get through the crowd so everyone can go home and stop listening to us talk.
Watch us on TV.
So first and foremost, if we could, Chief Mitchell, if you can come up. Chief is here tonight to give us some good news on a grant that he has been pushing for a long time. So we're anxious to get Chief out here.
I just want to, just so everybody knows what I'm talking about. Just want to hand these out, packets. Thank you. Oh yeah, more paper. I can just take out that. More file. I came in front of the board several months ago to ask for support to enter into a joint partnership with the town of Newbury, Groveland, and also us, Georgetown, to apply for a regional assistance to firefighter grant through the federal government through FEMA, which is stands for, it's the AFG grant. We wrote, my member Taylor Belletto wrote the grant with the assistance from Captain Rob Serino from Newbury. We submitted the grant, and we were fortunate enough to be awarded the grant. Basically, what we're going to be purchasing with this, these funds, which falls under the Firefighter Safety Initiative, is self-contained breathing apparatus, spare cylinders, mask to go along with those, and also what they call a pack tracker. I'll explain that in a minute. And also we'll be getting 3 RIT bags as well with cylinders. When we put in for the grant, the total grant was approximately, well, it was $988,412, which our combined matching, because we'd have to put in between the 3 communities 10% of the grant, would be approximately $98,841.20. So the federal contribution would have been $889,570.80. So the total combined would have been $988,412. The FEMA does not award that kind of money for air packs, which per pack was quoted out at $8,734 per pack. They award $6,800 per pack. So there's a discrepancy between FEMA and the manufacturers. Our vendor is going to make good on all this because they've negotiated with Scott. We're going to get what we wrote the grant for, which is each community is going to get 30 air packs. Well, let me back up. Georgetown's going to get 30 air packs, which is the amount we have in our department right now. Newbury's going to get 39 air packs and Groveland 32. Plus, each air pack gets a spare cylinder. So basically, there's a total of 101 air packs coming, along with 101 face pieces, and total of 202 cylinders. Along with that, there's gonna be 3 devices, one of them for each community is called a pack tracker. And basically what that is each air pack will have a device where we'll be able, like a sensing unit, it's kinda like a GPS. So the incident commander or a chief officer who's assigned to accountability, which basically manages and tracks the resources on scene, can be outside with that unit, and each pack is gonna be labeled and numbered for all 3 communities. And he'll be able to put it up like a wand and be able to track where those packs are in a structure, whether it be a commercial building or a residential building. So that's kind of a safety feature that we're gonna be getting. And also the 3 RIP packs. And the RIP packs have a spare cylinder, a 60-minute bottle in the cylinder. And what it is it's for firefighter safety. In the event a firefighter gets into trouble, calls a mayday, which is our safety feature. I shouldn't say safety feature, but it's a identification that a firefighter is down, a mayday, and the rapid intervention team will have that pack with them along with other tools, and they'll be able to bring the pack in, get to the down firefighter, hook him up on air, because usually when a firefighter goes down, he's either trapped, low on air, or a combination of 2, or even injured. So we're gonna be getting all this equipment for the 3 communities, coming in at a total of, the award was for $692,179. FEMA is going to wire over $629,254, and between the 3 communities, it's gonna be a total cost of $62,925, which we will break up, because Georgetown's only getting 30 packs, so their percentage is gonna be a little bit less than like Newberry's and Groveland. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Great job, Chief.
Thank you. Yeah, it's all about the team.
You have enough in the grant to cover all the equipment you just talked about.
When at town meeting, we had approved $20,000 for cylinders, because my cylinders were gonna be expiring, because they were coming up on the 15-year mark. So that, our percentage, which is 10%, will have that money to cover that. So it's basically, gonna cost us, for the sake of argument, about $20,000. For
But
cylinders.
for all the
Right, for all this,
equipment.
yeah.
Good, that's good. And I just noticed when you were talking about this pack tracker,
Yep,
first thing that came to mind was, how far does it see? And I looked and it said 900 feet line of sight.
yeah.
That's a big distance.
I saw that down in Cumberland, one of our mutual aid partners to the south. We ended up going with that about 5 years ago, and they brought it over to our Station 1, and Station 1 was a concrete building, and I was outside, and I could track the guys crawling around in the bay through a cinder block building, so I thought it was pretty impressive.
Right.
Great. Anybody else?
That's good.
Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, that's great, congratulations
Thank you.
again on the grant. Just a question about the maintenance cost on these, is
Well-
it significantly high, or, for all
No,
the
we,
electronics?
what we have to do every year, we're mandated by NFPA to do a flow test on them every year, on the air packs, which we do anyways now. Also, we do we're mandated to do a fit test every year for our members, because some members, either they lose weight, they gain weight, so their face piece needs to fit properly, so we'll do a fit test every year. And every 5 years, the bottles have to be hydro tested.
Gotcha.
So,
Okay.
and that's why at the 15-year mark, they're expired, meaning once you empty them, you can't rehydro them again.
I get
So, but this is all cost that's built into our budget anyway,
Sure,
so.
sure. And what's the maintenance, or the warranty on, like, the electronic components of it?
Yeah, the warranties itself, they're gonna cover a lot of the warranties. Warranty will be at least 5 years on it.
Oh, that's good,
Yeah.
okay. No, that's all I have.
Skipper Gary?
Congratulations, it's
Well,
awesome.
Thank you, and, just to kind of follow up on a couple other projects on grant. We implemented this, last week, we implemented the IT grant that we had gotten through the community compact through the lieutenant governors. That's been implemented, and we're gonna be implementing the AFG fire prevention grant, which is based on community risk reduction. we're gonna be tracking a lot of, data, and that's gonna allow us to take that data and plug into our, you know, make sure our programs are what they are, what we're producing right now, but any changes we need to make. You know, as an example, if we're seeing more slips and falls, then we need to come up with a program for slips and falls and kind of apply it towards that demographic. As an example, you know, if we're seeing more kitchen fires in the residents, then we need to look at that demographic. And all this data is gonna allow us to track all that. So, I mean, basically, between the 3 grants, for the total cost approximately is gonna be about $21,000.
What's the useful life of all of this?
The pack's 15 years.
So 15 years.
Yep, they recommend at 15 years that you either upgrade or replace them. Those packs are the newest line that Scott has. And one of the things about those packs is those things can be taken apart and deconned. Where right now our packs are getting decontaminated after a use on the ramp with the scrub brush and the garden hose, where the straps can be put in the wash machine into a bag. And the other thing about that pack is the ergonomics, where at the waist will move. When you move, the waist belt will move with it on the back. So it's kind of more for ergonomics, you know, so you're not moving and the pack's not moving with you. So it's kind of a new feature that Scott came up with.
Chief, as we have won this grant, okay, along with, was it us that won or us Groveland and,
Yeah, it was a regional grant.
okay.
Yeah.
Does this kind of put us at the bottom of a list per se for any future grants? in the next couple
I don't
years?
think so, because one of the reasons we went the regional route is we're all in the same boat. So we would have been competing against each other, and chances of 3 communities getting the same grant in the same area would have been kind of tough. You know, it would have been, somebody was gonna lose out. So, you know, speaking with the other chiefs and, you know, in conversations, we just went the regional group, and FEMA likes to see more of a regional approach, because it affects 101 firefighters. The population's, and don't hold this to me, but about 20,000 people as well between the 3 towns. So that has a positive, you know, an impact for firefighter safety in these 3 communities. So they kind of look at that as kind of like a positive to that. And even through the whole grant process, going through it, we heard nothing but positive things on this. And when we got to the end, when we got the notification, it was exciting and a big relief at the same time. So
So for the audience, how long did this process take?
we've been going at it for about 7 months now.
About 7 months.
You know, we started the grant, write the grant, you gotta get in by a certain point. Then they do a peer review, and usually at the peer review, you either get a letter saying, you know, you're moving forward. If you don't get a letter, it means you're moving forward in the process. If you get a letter, it means, you know, you're not moving forward, reapply again next year. So, that's,
Oh, good.
Yep.
Fantastic.
This is good news.
thank you.
Anybody else, Mike? Okay,
I'm good.
all right.
Yep.
Chief, great job.
Thank you, appreciate it. No, it's the guys, and just to want to add, like, even on the other grants, Nick Bruno wrote the AFG grant for the fire prevention grant. You know, I put together the IT grant, but also I had Mike look at the narrative, and he made some changes to it. So it's a team effort, you know. It just happened to be the guy, you know, facilitating it, but it was, you know, having a member sit there and focus on that and being able to dedicate his time on it was a big help.
Oh,
So,
good.
so, thank you.
Comforting to know that the first responders are properly equipped.
Yes, yep, absolutely. Awesome. Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, next on our agenda. A month or 2 back, this board had approved to adopt a couple of new streets here in town. But I'm going to invite John Cashel up to explain why we actually need an approval tonight I should say an additional approval for that to adopt those streets. So, John,
Okay,
welcome tonight.
thank you. I spent most of the day on this issue, going back and forth with Town Council, Attorney Eichman. The document that you do have before you concerning Lisa Lane and the acceptance of the 3 streets and easements, within the subdivision. After discussing this and going over all the technicalities with Attorney Eichman, what he recommended right before this meeting for me to convey to the board is that, I'll just read it real quickly. I recommend that the town obtain the site line easement in Lot 1, in parentheses, in parcel H, but the selectmen may want to remove the taking of this easement in Lot 1 from this order to avoid possible liability. And he wants me to let him know tomorrow, if the board does sign the document before you, that little technicality. He doesn't want the Board of Selectmen to believe they're actually taking this line of sight easement. It's going to actually be a grant by the property owner, and this document will be amended accordingly. So the document involves the proper taking of all the easements within the subdivision. It was something that was overlooked in the initial action and what was voted on at the annual town meeting this past spring. So what he has assured me is that by conveying this information to you this evening, that this document will be corrected in its entirety, alleviating any liability of the town. And that what is important is for the board to consider signing the last page of that document, and he will amend it accordingly and have everything cleared up. Again, working with the developers, town council, their council. Anybody, and the most important thing, by taking this action this evening and considering signing the document, it avoids a special town meeting this fall having to take up the same issue. So,
So,
we get it, just to summarize, we get a chance to clear up the actual taking, all the documentation necessary, so it becomes a clean taking of the 3 roadways and all of the easements within that subdivision. And we're able to do that with the execution of this particular document.
so all the homeowners that this affect have,
The,
that are affected by this have been notified and aware and give their approval?
well, what's involved is the easements for the drain structures.
Yeah.
That's already on the plans.
Okay.
They're all noted on the plans. What happened was when the deed of conveyance for the drainage easements, the utility easements, when it was drafted, the draftor overlooked the inclusion of all the easements.
Okay.
Attorney Eichman, scrutinizing the documentation, the deed transfer, found these mistakes, and he corrected them forthwith. And that's what this document will do tonight, is correct all of that and get it ready for recording. So again, there won't be any liability of the town. The town will have the absolute right to go upon the properties to maintain the drain structures, maintain the roadways, all of the utilities within the easement that they're responsible for. Sounds like a lot, but, basically what it is just cleaning up a little bit of a,
Housekeeping.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
administrative.
What happens to the original approval that we've already voted?
That still stands.
That still stands?
That still stands.
So it's not like we're throwing that one out and kinda
No.
doing it,
This avoids having to do that all over again.
yep. Okay, other questions from the board?
And,
Anybody? Gary?
So, I've got a document in front of me, John, and I think from what you're saying is the whole of section 4, we would be leaving out of what we're doing tonight. The section 4 is the one that mentions a plan as sight line easement accompanying lot 1.
It's not that you'd be leaving it out, and this is important to take into consideration. Again, I want to read what he did recommend. He would like the town to consider removing the taking of the easement in Lot 1 from this order to avoid possible liability. And by taking out, in recognizing, taking out the word taking, he is working with the developer and affected owners of the property to have the easement by grant, and it won't be by taking of this, of the town. So it would be a grant of the affected land to the town, rather than the town having to take it.
To me, that just makes any motion difficult, because typically we would perhaps move as printed or something. And that section is really, looking at it quickly, I mean, I just received this tonight, is right now, the only place I'm seeing lot 1. On the front page, we've got, it starts with lots 4. In section 2. So I think it might be difficult to move forward a motion.
Well, could I suggest something in that regard? On the advice of town council, that the Board of Selectmen move to execute the Lisa Lane document. The advice of town council is to have the easement, the sightline easement, granted to the town, rather than the town taking the easement. And he just emphasizes that takes out it avoids the possibility of liability.
Would you repeat what you just said? Because I couldn't write as fast as.
Okay. Just for suggestion purposes, I move that the Board of Selectmen execute the Lisa Lane liability document presented before us this evening, with the exception of taking the advice of town council, wherein he recommends that the sightline easement proposed for lot 1.
You're gonna have to go over it again.
Okay.
Okay, so you move that the Board of Selectmen.
Execute the Lisa
execute-
Lane
Yeah, oh, Lisa
uh,
Lane.
document as authored by town council. And that further, the sightline easement associated with lot 1 be granted by the owner rather than by taking.
Can we just read this?
This encompasses Lisa Lane, Vineyard Lane, and Grapevine Circle?
Correct.
Do we need to name all of those?
No,
No?
no. All you have to do is make reference to the actual document.
Easements, so it's up there too. Over there. Yeah,
So,
I'll-
let's
I'll
try it.
definitely include that.
Let's try it before anybody seconds it. We'll fill in.
Mhm.
Is there any other, before I make a motion?
I just had a question for Mike. So in our agenda, we've identified what the discussion and the vote was going to be to adopt an order of taking.
Yep.
And it sounds like we're switching that up now. Is that an issue with?
No, because this just became, we just became aware of this within the last 48 hours. So,
Okay.
under the
Okay.
open meeting law, we're able to take up items not reasonably anticipated by the chair 48 hours in advance of the meeting.
Okay.
We just learned about this morning.
Okay. And even though the town actually voted to have these accepted as public ways, the the selectmen can make any type of edits or adjustments to any documentation as a result of that vote?
Well, we're not changing the adoption of the roads, we're adding the easements to it that were omitted when, they should have been included. We should have accepted the roads and the easements at the same time. We didn't accept the easements.
And technically speaking, these are appurtenances to the rights of way, to the subdivision in its entirety, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Any further discussion on that? No? Got that?
Pretty much so.
Alright.
Hold on now. Okay, I move that the Board of Selectmen execute the Lisa Lane document as offered by Town Council, and further, the sightline easement associated with Lot 1 be granted, I think by the owner, rather than by taking.
That's perfect.
Adequate?
Yeah.
Okay. Alright, motion, we have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion is second. Any further discussion by the board? Kara, is that a yes or a no? I don't know if,
Yeah, I had questioned, you know, why a taking and not a transfer of deed? So I guess why
Well, they are-
couldn't we just, again, do a transfer of deed? I
That-
guess.
that is what is being worked
They
on.
mentioned it in the document.
In all likelihood, that will be the end result. It'll be all by deed rather than taking. And they're working on that, and as I said
So
earlier,
I guess then why the urgency to do this?
because otherwise, the deadline for action by this board by state statute is September 4th.
Okay,
And if the paperwork isn't in order by September 4th, then it expires, the action that was taken in the spring expires, and then by special town meeting, you would have to do it all over again, so.
The whole thing.
Yeah, yeah.
and for everybody that might be wondering, our next meeting's not till September 10th, so we won't be able to get that done by that date. Okay. Any other further discussion? Okay, all right, if not, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
I'm an aye.
Okay, unanimous. John, thank you for taking the time.
Yep, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Putting our trust in the people that I'm doing the right thing.
Thanks, John.
All right, next we have an agreement, Town of Georgetown and Stantec for the Rail Trail project. How you doing?
Good.
If you could introduce yourself for the board?
Chris Roop, Chairman of the Recreational Path Committee.
Nice to meet you, Christian. Thanks for coming tonight. I'm actually gonna hand it over to you.
Well,
What do we got going on?
okay, currently what's happening is the trail is in the development phase or the design phase. And the state made some changes to their rules, which required that a new contract for design with the state be put in place. This is the contract between Georgetown and the design firm. Correct. The contract between Georgetown and the state, Mass DOT, has already been signed. And this is one of the last pieces that needs to be put in place for Stantec to be able to move forward with the new work. So,
Okay.
So this doesn't have anything to do with Georgetown taking the lead on certain things with with relation to the trail in
The-
Boxford, that's something else?
No, what you're referring to is the memorandum of understanding contracts that have been developed between Georgetown and both Boxford and Newbury. And what those are is the funding mechanism whereby, and what's happening with this whole contract is that when Stantec submits an invoice, it gets approved by the state, we pay Stantec, then Stantec, we bill the two towns, Newbury and Boxford. They pay us, we pay Stantec the entire amount. Then, when we've done that, we submit a reimbursement to the state, and they reimburse us 100%. And then we, in turn, distribute that payment back to the towns that we have the agreements with.
Thank you for explaining that, Rex. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, just a couple questions. I'm looking at the contract here. Do we have a commence date? It looks like that may be blank.
That's waiting on this meeting.
Okay. And has town council reviewed this?
Yes,
They have?
yes. It's
They don't
been a
have-
long process. Stantec submitted a contract. Town council rejected that contract. They countered with their own. It went back to Stantec's legal.
Okay.
That returned, and they came to an agreement. So that's the result of that
Before us.
interaction is what's in front of us now.
Okay. In 2023, so that's only for that gives them from today until 2023 to do a design? Is that what we're?
Yeah, and I don't believe
long
that it's
time.
gonna take all of that time, but because our construction funding is for 2021.
Yes, so what happens if they don't have it done and our construction funding is on time?
That would be a very good question, which I don't know the answer to.
Just wondering if we should kind of narrow the time frame of this agreement, right? Because, I mean, if you read it here, it says that they have till 2023 to complete the work. Right?
Expire unless terminated sooner.
The completion of work.
Yeah.
John, go ahead.
If I could just add, the reason why it does extend out to 2023, that you have to be nimble. This bypass are, planned over many, many years, and you really have to be flexible. And a lot of it has to do with funding, and funding coming in on time, and just making sure the project has enough time for design and construction. But those are not set in concrete, any of these dates, other than with the board signing off on the contract this evening. Stantec can now go towards the 25% design phase of the project. There's a lot of years ahead before people are gonna actually walk and pedal on a formal bike path.
Sure.
And nobody knows for sure exactly what year it's going to start at this point,
Right.
nor when it's going to finish. There are environmental plans that have to be approved locally by all governments involved with the bike path. There are engineered plans that have to be developed, and site plans that have to be approved.
Sure.
So it's all a flexible time frame, and that's
Yeah,
why
that's-
it's out to 2023.
Yeah, that's understandable. Can you answer the question, John, about the funding for construction if they don't complete the project?
Actually, I think I can give you a better answer at this point.
Sure.
Is that while the construction funding has been secured, its position on the Transportation Improvement Program, the TIP, is variable. So if there were a reason why design was delayed, it would get reprogrammed within the TIP in order to move it to an appropriate time frame.
Okay,
And that's happened already a couple of times.
okay. And I just had one more question. On the completion of the work, I didn't go through all the document, but, what are the payment terms here? It looks like we're paying out $826,000,
We're-
$983.
It's, the payments are based on work completed.
Okay,
And we have 30 days from the time that
Okay.
they submit an invoice for us to pay.
perfect. Okay, that's all I have.
Any other further questions from the board on this? Doug, you good?
No, I'm all set.
Okay.
I'll go.
Go ahead, Gary.
This has been taking a while,
To say the
and
least.
we've been pushed back many times. But we don't really have any guarantee that the tip money will be there.
No, we do have a guarantee, unless we default for some reason, that the state has guaranteed that that money is available for this project. The only variable has been the programming of that money, in which year it will actually be available. And basically what the regional planning office does is they look at all of the available monies and say, where are these projects in terms of their design? Are they ready to move forward? And they'll change up the programming of the money to accommodate either delays or increases. So if we were not able to move forward until this contract gets signed, and at this point, it puts us on a pretty good timeline for completion, barring any unforeseen circumstances. So as we move forward through design, it may be that the MPO comes along and says, you're looking better than this other project, we're gonna push you up a year. So it goes both ways.
Now, our portion is funded, I believe, pretty much with community preservation.
The money that the committee is working with to do the legal work, the operation of the committee and what we're doing right now, and maintenance of the trail is funded through community preservation. Design was completely funded externally through an earmark for the original part of it, and then and the state is actually kicking in a substantial amount of money at this point in order to complete the design work.
My question is, I think we're covered. Now, we expect Newbury and Boxford to pay us back, because as I'm following you, we're paying them, then we bill them. Are they, Newbury and Boxford funded like we are on this project? Do they have money sitting in a bank account like we do to draw out?
I'm not sure about Newbury. I know that Boxford has community preservation funds to some extent as well.
But I guess my question would be, what guarantee do we have that the other towns don't drop out, and then we're paying a larger?
The contracts that we secured with them say that they are committing themselves to the percentage of the
Okay.
contract. So we get the invoice, we bill them, they pay us.
It's been a long process, and it's,
Yes.
I mean, you've been working on it, I don't know, I think I'm
Well,
in my 10th year here now, and
I've
you've been working
been
on
on
it, you've been working on it longer than that, I can
I've
tell
been
you.
on it 10 years, and
Yeah.
I'm one of the newcomers.
So,
What's that, Gary?
Well, I've had a lot of hesitation on this project, and maybe John can help me with this, because for another project, another thing that's on our agenda tonight, we got some, I don't know what you call these. John, what's the term for these? These are Board of Assessors?
Town
Okay.
assessing
Yeah,
maps.
town assessing maps. And the rail trails that we're talking about are on here as abandoned right-of-ways. And so I'm familiar with someone who has some land off one of these, and I honestly feel that there's, could be some issues with these right-of-ways.
There are some parts of the trail which are not owned in fee by National Grid. We're working with council right now to put together the plan for securing those rights of way that we would need an easement for.
So would that be an additional cost?
Some of that is already incorporated into this. Additional properties have been identified, which the committee is going to end up paying for unless we come up with an alternative.
Was there a contingency at all in all of this planning?
Right now, I believe that we have sufficient funds to cover the expenses that we're anticipating.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Just a quick note, in first page, scope of work and contract price, they both refer to exhibits A and B.
Yeah.
They're not part of this.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's of issue.
good, thank you. I had those circled.
The, let me see. I believe, well, I won't, I haven't looked exactly at what those are, but I believe that they're referring to the contract between Georgetown and the state, Mass DOT. But I don't know exactly what they are, so I would have to get back to you on that. And, because I'm sure that we have those documents in-house.
So with that being said, are we comfortable voting that tonight? Or,
I'm
Okay.
Well, if
I'm a nay.
Town council approved, I'm fine with it.
John?
Yeah, as Chris was saying, you know, I believe the town's been planning for this for 10 years. Just to give you an example, the Cambridge Minuteman path, that was planned for 20 years before ground was broken. And I was involved with one for over 15 years, and it did take finally 20 years, and that was the Stoneham, Woburn, Winchester bike path, a much shorter one from the border of Boston, and that took 20 years. We're moving a lot faster than those two particular projects, and we are in, I would consider, a golden era of bike paths being created, and you have a state administration that's completely committed to funding these projects and helping communities pull these projects together. There are many bike paths planned throughout the Commonwealth, and this is one of the main ones. They're all on a fast track planning process now compared to years ago, over the last 3 decades. They're all moving along. The state now knows how to do them, and they're committing the funding for it. And they're a real boon for anybody that rides a bicycle, wants to bring the family for a walk. You know, they're just a great exercise venue for so many hundreds of thousands of people. And the state recognizes that, and they're doing everything they can to move this process forward. You know, you did take up the conversation of takings, and you know, whether this land is available, or you have to have easements or the actual takings. And that's one of the more strenuous parts of creating these bike paths, is getting the legal right of way in order to go forward with construction. And sometimes it takes a lot longer than you think to acquire easements and takings.
You know, to what you said though, I mean, it has been a long process, but I also feel like Merrimack Valley Planning, who I think helped decide how these things move forward, has pushed us down and down the road to do others. And I think that what this was originally called, the Boston to Porter, was one of the first ones planned. And they've been kicking this can down the road while they've been doing these other little projects in some of the larger cities. And I don't think we've been treated very fairly on this.
Having representation on that board now, with John
Yeah.
Castle is our representative there, and that helps quite a
Help
bit.
moving along.
Yep.
You have to be at the table, and,
Yeah.
the representatives from bigger cities do.
Now, I see there's a meeting,
listen to.
there's a meeting coming up. Is this part of it? Because Tip was mentioned, I was reading downstairs in some of our mail.
Definitely, and I've been at the table since I've been in town. The Mass DOT is working right now as effectively as they can for the desires and what this town wants to achieve. And I'll give you an example. This is an aside, but we're a complete streets program community now. We were a little disappointed at the beginning of this year that we did not have a project that we were working on. But Mass DOT came through with a much bigger project for Route 97, Central Street, a much larger scale project, and that's now on the tip. And that wasn't on the tip. So that's moving in our direction now, the complete reconstruction of Route 97. Pete Durkee's had a lot to do with all of this, getting it squared away. And he's at the table at Merrimack Valley now too. He's the superintendent of Public Works Committee that works all the time on improving the infrastructure of the region on a town-by-town basis. So a lot of things are happening now, and we're making sure as a town that we're at the table with Merrimack Planning Commission.
Have him before Doug, why don't you?
I just have a question, Mike. Have previous boards already approved a scope of work for the rail trail? Chris, do you know? Right here, we say, the engineer shall perform the work set forth in a scope of services attached.
Which is, that's the contract with Mass DOT, is what
So
sets
this
out
has all
this.
been approved prior?
Yes.
Okay. And then I'm assuming that Exhibit B is the MOU?
No, I
No?
would think that Exhibit B, I, don't quote me yet, but I'm gonna look into exactly what the exhibits are, and get back to Mike on that, to make sure, but I believe that that's the contract, between Georgetown and Mass DOT, which actually establishes the work, and so, because Mass DOT is the one that is running the game on what gets done and how it gets done.
Well, if we waited until September 10th, is that too long?
Yes.
Yes.
Because
Was this September 4th?
Well, the urgency behind this, getting this agreement going is that Stantec cannot do any additional work. We can't move forward. They've got surveyors lined up to do work in the next 2 weeks. So we've been, this process to get us to here has taken at least 6 months.
I guess what I'm trying to ask is that the information that's related to Exhibit A and Exhibit B is, I think, has already been approved prior to this meeting by this board or previous boards.
Correct.
Is that right?
I
Yeah.
think we've seen it before.
Yeah. Because you signed off on the contract with MassDOT.
Right.
So, and I will make sure that I establish exactly what those two exhibits are and make sure that I get that information to Mike.
And Exhibit A and B have both been reviewed by council.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Okay. All right, we're gonna push this off to a vote. Do I hear a motion to approve this?
Mr. Chair, I'd move that we accept the agreement for professional engineering services between the town of Georgetown, Massachusetts, and Stantec for the rail trail project, as presented with the contingency of having Exhibit A and Exhibit B made known to us.
Second.
Okay, motion is second. Any further discussion?
If I may,
Quickly.
yeah. The scope of services, it's sort of, when I read this over there, they're not just design, they're gonna be, I forget the new term, we used to call it like the clerk of the works. Are they gonna this company gonna oversee all the further work as this project begins? I thought I was kinda reading it that way.
I would have to ask that specific question. The project manager of the, Mass DOT's project manager is typically the one, but they're relying on Stantec, for the technical aspects. So,
Is that? Actually, I want, are you the only one hitting up this project, or do you have other people
we
that
have
are on
committee of 5.
5? Okay, just wasn't sure. Okay. All right, any further discussion from anybody else? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
They,
Okay, 4-1. Chris, thank you very much for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Certainly appreciate it.
And I will.
Thanks, Chris.
Mike. Thanks.
All right, next on the agenda, our friends over at Georgetown Cares. Update from Pamela Lundquist. Pamela, just come on up.
Hi, everyone.
How are you?
Very good. How about yourself?
Just
Hello.
peachy.
Thank you
Hi.
so much for having me.
Sure.
Us, and we do have some board members.
Hi,
Yes.
everybody. Good.
Yeah, how are
Leaving
you?
out the support for Pam today.
Appreciate that very much. Carol is one of our steering committee members, as is Doug, and
Good to know that you
Mitchell
care.
over there.
I see what you did there.
Yep. And also then, this is just a little spreadsheet to indicate our budget and what we're doing with it, which I'm sure you'll be interested in. There we go. Okay.
Take to a society.
Sorry, I'm sorry, it's
Killed a
like it
few
all
trees
came
today.
together very quickly at the end. I didn't really have time to distribute electronically, but I can later if you would like. I just, again, want to thank you for having us. I thought since now, at this current time, we are a subcommittee of the Board of Selectmen, that you would like an update,
you.
perhaps on some kind of regular basis. I don't know how much you guys know about Georgetown Cares. I'm sure Doug has been telling you quite a bit, and I know I saw Gary and Doug both at
couple of things,
a 40 Developmental Assets Tower Foundation meeting, so.
Pam, for those who don't know, out in the audience and those watching at home, if you could kind of give a
Absolutely.
little synopsis on what you guys are
Definitely,
doing.
yes. So Georgetown Cares is a substance abuse prevention coalition. Our goal is to bring together many different sectors in the community and anybody who really wants to be involved. We started our coalition at the tail end of 2008, 2009. So we've been going for quite a while. At that time, it was a youth substance abuse prevention coalition. We had a zero budget, so we were primarily aimed at educating parents, and it's a common arrangement for the person on a substance abuse prevention town coalition to also be on the health and wellness committee of the schools. So I was on the health and wellness committee of the schools, so we can all communicate with each other and work in collaboration. So for the first 3 years, we had a lot of educational type of events. We had drug recognition workshop with Marilyn Belmonte. That was a 4-week thing. We had a lot of, the police department was very, very helpful. They came and did social host liability laws, as well as, other key speaker events. And we got a lot of good feedback at that time. The primary concern of the community, I mean, a big purpose of the coalition is to find out what the community concerns and thoughts and needs are. And at that time, they really, really wanted a school resource officer. And so we kind of did what we could to work to encourage that. After about 3 years, you know, people are very busy. They'd kind of heard what we had to say, and they didn't really come to a lot of meetings. So we were more of a Facebook presence than anything else, trying to distribute information to anyone in the community who might have questions about, resources, where they could go, what they could do, how they can talk to their children. I mean, we all, parents are the most powerful teachers our children have, and so it's important for you to know, how to speak to your children about these substances to give them the best kind of understanding that they can have to make healthy choices and lead a good life. So, but then, in March of 2017, we were very fortunate and blessed, and we're grateful to Healthy Farms and to you folks, great folks from the Board of Selectmen who helped to negotiate this. And so Healthy Farms has given us a budget that we can actually work with, and we're trying very hard to make sure that we use it in the most valuable way to make the most positive impact on this community that we possibly can. It's come at a very good time in terms of, the challenges that every town in the Northeast in Massachusetts is facing right now with substances. Massachusetts is one of the top 3 states for the rate of death due to synthetic opioid overdoses. Nationally, death rates from drug overdoses now exceed death rates from car accidents or breast cancer. So it's really not an issue that we as a society can afford to be putting aside. We need to really talk about this and meet it head on. We do have a lot of medication-assisted recovery and treatment methods that are very effective to help people who get addicted. But there are obstacles, there are reasons why people aren't able to reach out and get these a huge obstacle is the stigma that society has. People who are addicted feel very sometimes isolated. They think they're the only ones who have this issue, when in fact, at least about 1 in 10 people in the country, have this. So if we're a town of 8,500 people, we probably have at least 850 people who suffer from some kind of addiction issues with substances. The CDC has found that different groups in town working together, like for instance, now we're on the committee, we have the police, and so Chief Cudmore tells us a lot about what the police are doing, and we coordinate, we collaborate, and Chief Mitchell, because his people are the ones who find those who are overdosed, and he distributes the Narcan, and so Narcan training would be something that we might want to get involved in at some point. And of course the schools, because the schools we want to teach our children from a very young age in age appropriate ways how to interact with substances. So also now that we have the legalization of marijuana, I think a lot of young people are very confused about legalization of recreational marijuana. They're confused about what the law actually says, why it might be, physically a healthy choice for adults, but not for them. I mean, a lot of children don't understand, a lot of people really don't understand the brain differences between people under 25 years old or under 21 years old and adults. And I think this was something, we look back on our childhoods and our parents, and our parents, at least my parents, certainly had no idea that the adolescent brain was different than the adult brain. And, so they told things to their children that weren't quite right. I mean, my father, I do remember him telling me, "Oh, you can drink and drive, that's fine. You just have to, there's a way to do it." There's he didn't know. They thought differently back then, but now we know better, and when you know better, you do better, and we have science and scientific studies. So we also have vaping facing our children and everyone in our society right now. It's a big new thing that's coming forward. It's not going to go away. I went on the Philip Morris website and I looked into their strategic plan. I really like strategic plans. In fact, that's one of the documents that I have for you is the strategic plan that we came up with for Georgetown Cares. But in their strategic plan, they intend to, on the domestic front, move away from cigarettes and tobacco products, and they want their whole $175 billion business to be about pushing vapes. And while, you know, I'm especially concerned about young people, obviously, being involved in the schools as I am. And vapes are very, you know, you can put in water to a vape, you can put in the nicotine packs that are sold to go in vapes have very, very high concentrations of nicotine. And I'm sure you all are aware of how addictive a substance nicotine is. I mean, 90% of the people who smoke cigarettes don't want to. They want to quit, but they can't because it's so addictive. I mean, but these vapes can hold marijuana, they can hold opioids, they can hold carfentanil, they can hold anything people can put in them. And so, you know, as a society, as a town, as the police forces, the schools, we all are going to have a very difficult time dealing with, you know, when we find people vaping, and testing to figure out what exactly is in these vapes is cost prohibitive and it's very difficult. So we kind of have to react as if the worst possible substance is in the vape, whether it is or not, to try to keep people safe. So, I mean, I know they were originally intended to help people to quit smoking cigarettes. And, you know, I think the jury is out on that. I'm not going to say that it's not effective, but you know, I know that there are some circumstances in which they can be a reasonable thing, but in any case, so we want to help and support people to learn when that is and when that isn't. So to clarify, Georgetown Cares, we are primarily basing all of our efforts to help residents on positive development framework, which is something that it's an approach that kind of invites people in. It's based on the 40 developmental assets. And assets are their relationships, their qualities, that the whole 40 developmental assets is originally meant to help students. And thanks to the Tower Foundation, and I'll go over this, and I'm gonna get to what we've done, just a little synopsis of what we've been doing over the past year. One of the things we did was with the help of the Tower Foundation, which we're also very appreciative to because they funded this, we conducted the attitude and behavior survey for our students grades 6 through 12. And one really strong result that came out of that for me was that you could see that the students that had between 31 and 40 assets, which are also their qualities, there's 20 internal assets like self-esteem and motivation and a belief in honesty and truth and their values, and then there's external assets, which are a community that supports them, a community where they feel valued. Okay, so we have internal psychological kind of assets, and we have that we can help build, but external assets that we can also help build. And the survey really confirmed that the students that had 31 to 40 assets were 3 times less likely to make more dangerous choices with substances or with social violence or with bullying or with anything else. And those students that had 0 to 10 assets were 3 times more likely to make those choices. So we know that by increasing the assets in people's lives, and even though the framework was originally designed to work with students, we want to work with everybody in the town, senior citizens, families, parents, and students. So let's see. You know, we know that when we build assets in people's lives and make them feel valued, empowered, and welcome, that they're more likely to make healthy choices that in line with their own values and their own dreams of success than if they don't.
If
Yes.
I could interject,
Sure.
because we've invited the faith-based community
Yes.
to meet with us.
Yes.
The veterans agent has attended several meetings,
Yes.
so on those issues of,
Board of Health.
because what we want to do is be a resource provider, and also to help certainly students, but also there are vulnerable adults in this world, so that 40 developmental assets are not only good just for students, geared towards students, but certainly can be used by adults,
Exactly.
right? So
We probably
we're-
should have included it. We can get you a copy of the assets,
so
just for
we've
your
been,
frame of
well, I've
reference.
sent it out several times.
Okay,
Oh, good.
But,
well,
Good.
we'll send it one more time.
so, yeah, so there's several different areas that we've looked at and tried to invite those folks in, as well as members of, like the PTA and at-large members from the community, et cetera, to deal with this issue of substance use and misuse.
Right, right. And you can also, I mean, if you're curious, if you want to learn more about the 40 developmental assets, there's a ton of information about it on our our wonderful website that Kip helped put together that we really appreciate. And it's on the Facebook page. There's the Georgetown Cares Facebook page, which you're all welcome to join and hop in, and if you happen to Facebook. If you don't, there's other ways to learn, So, does anyone have any questions at this?
You
No,
just
okay.
answered one, so.
Okay, very good. And please feel free to,
Yeah, no,
jump in, and
keep
thank you,
going.
Doug, for,
I'd like to say that,
Yeah.
Pam has really, since she's taken over the chair, she's done a bang-up job
well,
on this. I mean, she's really geared towards these issues, and, much more than probably any of us. But,
I think it's been a nice opportunity to
thank
create
you.
a connection, because
Right.
Pam started Georgetown Cares out of work she had done, started in Newburyport. So she
right, right. I became
aware
a member of the Beacon
co-
Coalition
yeah.
in Newburyport in 2008.
So she had been
Yeah.
bringing these things, and we had been bringing these programs, but there was really nothing to connect to. It really wasn't a coalition yet. It was like a one-person coalition who generated all kinds of information on websites and that kind of, and the Facebook page. But when this committee came up, we thought, wow, this would be a really nice, now we can actually build a coalition, because as Pam said, there was really no money to do any of those other things. I mean, people did it out of the goodness of their heart. So, since this has now been a community, need and a community, a viable community organization, it was a perfect time to actually revitalize Georgetown Cares. So now Pam has a support system, and we can really look at it at the town
how
level.
we got to the whole Georgetown Cares Coalition Committee is because there were people in the community that recoiled from the term substance abuse.
Yeah,
So we tried to
Right.
smooth it out a little bit
Right.
and take those rough edges off, so they'd be more, their minds wouldn't go snapshot, and they could see
Right.
what was happening.
Right, because we're really just here to help and to distribute, to let people know about different local resources and what they can do if they have any questions. And, we treat it's, when somebody falls into an addictive state, the addiction, it is a chronic illness. There's no judgment. Nobody sets out to try to do that. It happens. They think that they're in control of their substance use, and then they cross a line, and then they need help to get out, which there is help. I do like to say, though, that prevention tends to work better than treatment. So I like to put resources into prevention when we can. All right, so just to review the activities, what we've been doing, we started meeting as a steering committee in March of 2017. We had a social host liability community forum with the police department in April of that year. We created a mission statement. We started to partner with the Essex County Asset Builder Network and Tower Foundation, and began talking about surveys and implementing the 40 developmental asset prevention approach, which, by the way, Newburyport has implemented for the past 10 years. And you can see in their survey results that there's evidence of that. It works. Their students actually have gained quite a few assets over the years. So in November, we did, the schools did partner, we all conducted the attitude and behavior survey for 6th through 12th graders. We also finalized the name change just to make us, a little bit less scary sounding, and also convey our intent. Our message is just to, welcome people in and help whoever would like to help. And, or, we also, well, anyway, okay. We partner with the Georgetown PTA, as you mentioned, the Eastern Essex Veterans, the Georgetown Council of Aging, the faith communities, And we want to continue, and, you know, the, GEF and any other organization, we're going to continue, something we're definitely gonna continue doing going forward, is just reaching out to whoever we can. We voted to create a new Georgetown Cares website, and it's a beautiful website, and I think, you know, for those people, there's certainly those people who just don't wanna talk to somebody about their questions around these issues, and they can go onto our website and they can find out quite a bit, without having to do that. So the next year in 2018 came, and we approved the Georgetown Cares Strategic Plan, which is attached here, and it has a lot of focus areas. It's kind of modeled on the school district strategic plan, because I like the way that works and looks. So it has goals and action steps that we can kind of work on one at a time as it seems appropriate, but it just gives us a direction to move in. So then we invited the Georgetown Board of Health in to speak about raising the age of tobacco sale to age 21. We presented at the Georgetown Health and Wellness Fair in April. We had a table with all kinds of different brochures and information, and I plan to have that information available too at the high school open house on September 6th. And possibly at Pembroke at their open house too. I did speak to Principal Richards about that, and
Yeah.
he's all good.
Yes.
So, let's see. We also partnered with the Tower Foundation to present, so with the results of the survey, we presented the community call to action, where we had students actually present the results to the community, and they talked about what they thought about it, and they asked us, you know, all kinds of questions, and we broke out into groups and had discussions, and that was a really great way, I thought, to present. Because, I mean, it's the students, it's information about them, so we want to keep inviting the students in, because we really want them to be a part of what we're doing. So we also had the Asset Builder Parent Training Workshop to tell, you know, parents about what the assets are and what they can do to help within their families to increase assets. We did not get a very good turnout for that, so we figured it was a very busy time. Maybe we need to communicate about it in a different way, and we can certainly try that again in the year to come.
Where
See.
the kids are, the parents are.
Yes. Yes, we had the Georgetown mock crash with the police department, collaborating with the fire department, Conti's, student actors. We invited at one of our meetings Mr. Tom Brow, who is a consultant with Seaside Consultants, to tell us about his vaping diversion program. Because you may have seen some articles, you know, there are students, when a student gets caught vaping, the question is, well, then how do you help that student? What path do you want to put that student on? And then in the article, it indicates a lot of times it's the same student getting caught numerous times who wants to stop, but they've gotten addicted to the nicotine and they can't, and so how do we help them with that? This vaping diversionary program, he was wonderful. He's a former middle school principal, right? And he is now the acting high school principal in Belmont, taking the place of Principal Richards, who's here. We kind of took their
So
principal,
it
so
was
now they
happening
need
in
one.
his
So
district.
I was, yeah, right, so he's there now, but he presented, he had an amazing presentation, and he basically said, so, you know, you take the student and you sit them down and you say, listen, according to the handbook, we can have all these consequences here, and, you know, you can, you might not like these, or we can go through this diversionary program, which is a very intensive educational program for the student. And they have assignments, and they meet with various different administrators in the school. Part of the focus is to build the relationship with that student, so you're really understanding where they're coming from, what might have led them to make that choice, what their questions are, what they're like for, you know, so it gets customized to the student as you go along. So like he said, for an example, one girl was worried about what it would be doing to her teeth. And so the assignment the next week was to research and learn what can it do to your teeth. And so anyway, so he came in, and I think everybody was very impressed with him. we're hoping to implement something like that in our schools. And we have the ideal principal to do that. He's seen it work, he knows how it works, so I think we'll do well with that. Let's see, so we created the new website, which is beautiful, if you might wanna go and visit that. And we have a new Georgetown Cares logo, and we wanted it to be student designed, because a lot of this is based, around helping the students, and so we had a little, we went to the Honors 2 marketing class, and about 8 students all designed fabulous, such creative work.
It was hard to choose.
And I told them about the mission of Georgetown Cares, and I just couldn't believe how they took it in. They really understood it, and so each logo seemed to express our purpose and our direction very, very well. It was so hard to pick. It was very hard to
There were
pick.
a lot of them.
There were a lot of them. Yes,
And they're really
It was
good.
great. They were.
so that's why I'm really glad. One of the reasons I'm very glad we have the whole, the committee. But so we voted on it, and eventually we did choose one, and you can find that on our website. So we did. So those two things, the website and the logo, account for some of our expenditures. We also approved the funding for 1 year of new K-12 substance abuse prevention and social emotional violence prevention curriculum. It's called Too Good for Drugs, for Georgetown students. We have had some form of health and wellness education, K-12, for many years. Although that was one of the things when Georgetown Cares was first established, it was not required in all 4 high school years to graduate. And that was something that we worked on and got done, so it is now required. But our textbooks were 25 years old. I think we had excellent teachers who were trying to stay current and trying to involve the students and share what they knew, but they deserve an up-to-date, comprehensive curriculum, state-of-the-art. I went to a workshop given by the Search Institute, who authors the 40 Developmental Assets, and I asked her about the best possible curriculums we could have for a school, and she said, "You got it, this is it." Because the Search Institute does not have one of their own yet. That might be something, but they don't have that. But this all circles into the 40 Developmental Assets. And so this cost $14,233.94. So we, because we do wanna, this money can do a lot of good, and we, as a committee, voted and decided it would have the maximum impact right now to benefiting, and would benefit our community.
And it's K-12.
And it's K through 12.
So, it's not, unique to the level.
And it
It's
spirals
a
each
spiral,
year.
yeah.
Right, and Colin McDonald, our director of curriculum, liked it because some of the other, he looked at 3, and some of the other curriculums had something that would be for three grades. But that would be difficult, because by the 3rd grade, how would the teacher know what they had done before? How do you, so this one has a specific, unique curriculum for every single grade, and it's not, overly repetitive. It circles, it spirals. Okay, so our potential goals for the year to come, do you want me to go into?
Yep,
Okay.
go into it.
So we want to, number one, reach out to more people in the community, and what we've heard from people is that all of our meetings have been during the day at 10 o'clock, from 10 to 11 o'clock. This is to accommodate the schedules of our steering committee, which it does very well. However, there's a lot of parents that cannot make it at that time, and so we have decided to continue with those monthly steering committee meetings, which are open meetings in which anybody is invited to come to at any time. But we're also going to have 5 evening meetings for what we'll call general membership. Anybody who is involved, who would like to get involved, who is interested. And I do have the dates for those already staked out here on this little piece of paper. Because we want anyone who to be able to come to the meetings, who would like to come to the meeting. So we're gonna have both day and evening meetings. So we hope that's gonna help us reach out to more. We're gonna develop an action plan based on the attitudes and behavior survey results. We're going to collaborate with town departments and organizations to develop a new community youth rec center, which is, that's a true collaboration. There are just so many, as I know, I'm sure you're well aware of, so many different town departments are coming together because, and it seems like the more people we talk to, we haven't met a person who says, oh, we don't need that.
Right, exactly.
I mean, I have to admit that, well, you've been thinking about this for a long time,
Yeah.
but the students got excited about it when they were at a data summit to prepare for presenting the survey results to the community, and they learned that students in other towns have these youth rec centers, you know.
We're actually
Right.
conducting a community youth focus group. Anybody who wants to come on August 21st. We're buying pizza for them, and we're gonna actually we're talking about using the Pearly upstairs. I'm happy to give anybody a tour if you haven't had a chance to come through. It's a nice space. We're gonna have the students come there, and then they'll have an opportunity to sort of talk about how would we see ourselves here, like what sort of, do you want a comfy room with chairs, you want an art space, you want a maker space, you know, what are the
You want
kinds of things, you want
TVs and
TVs.
video
and,
games.
you know, so what is it that is gonna bring you there? We're working on a project to do some basketball courts out back of Pearly.
Food.
Because we have the gym, you know, we have a number of things. It really would be a great location and center for everybody. So more will come, and we urge you all to become involved in it, you know, the planning of it, because I think it's truly something that the whole community will benefit from and can get involved in.
Yes.
That August 21st date, have you advertised that at
Yeah,
all?
yeah, we've
be there
advertised it,
tomorrow, yeah.
you know, on our, and I'll do it again.
It
but
is
we'll
on
do-
the Facebook
It's on the
page.
Facebook page, it's on my blog, but we also
it
actually
out
got
again.
some kids involved, because the kids don't talk on Facebook. You know, so we need you to
Oh.
get it out on Instagram and, you know, Snapchat and the various things that the
So what are
students do.
the details? August 21st, what time?
It's gonna be from 6:30 to 8 o'clock at the Pearly School. There actually is a sign-up genius.
And Aaron
Just so we
Duggan
can-
sent that around.
Aaron sent
and
that
by
around.
email.
Yeah.
Yeah. you
So I
sign
can
up for
certainly
that.
send you some stuff if you need it, but we will obviously, you know, hit the market again just to remind people. And I know people are on vacation. It won't be the only focus group we'll do with kids, but it's a start, because we do have a steering committee meeting before the end of the month, and I want to talk to the school committee about it when they meet in August, just so we can get it going. We'd like to be able to start it sometime this year. But again, everybody at the table, you know, has a vested interest in kids. So we're excited about that.
That rec center is designed for kids of what age?
Well, right now, we're looking at 7 through 12, because we think that's the greatest gap. We have pretty good after-school programs in the elementary schools for those kids. And, you know, it can always be expanded, but for right now, we're looking at 7 through 12, because we think
Actually,
there's a.
I know a few
Time-
years ago when we attempted a teen center, the kids that showed up were in those middle school years.
Yeah, that's what I think is the
And
need.
too much time alone at home is one of the risk factors that we, you know, our kids do have. If they go home and they're by themselves for 2-3 hours, it's, you know, I mean, it's not necessarily a good thing.
If I could, Mr. Chair, I applaud you all for doing a terrific job with this committee, and a great presentation. You're extremely passionate about this week, and I think we all can tell, and that's terrific. I think it comes at a critical time, right, with new law changes, now new substances like vape, so
Yeah.
I think it is important to get the kids, you know, get in front of the kids and kind of share what, you know, what potential issues or what could happen to them, you know, if they start the habits. And yeah, definitely the teen center, I know that we're coming next week, my son.
Yes.
Yeah, starting, he's starting at the middle schools, so we look forward to that, yeah.
Great, great.
But again,
yes.
I think to you and all the committee members, I applaud you all for such a
well.
great effort.
Well, thank you. I mean, you know, we appreciate being supported by the community as we have been, and, you know, so many people are working together.
So we probably, Pam, need
So-
to wrap up here.
Okay,
So-
yeah, we'll wrap up.
So Pam, actually, what I'd like to do, and I figured, and everybody else can read the rest.
Yeah.
I'd like, because I want to open it up to some conversation, you know, on the board as well. See if anybody has any questions for the board, any maybe suggestions, recommendations, anything like that that you might, you know, have some thought on.
I just want to throw one more thing out that I think Pam was going to get to. Today, actually, when we met, we voted to spend some money on devices that get that get mounted in the bathrooms that are used to detect any kind of, air quality change, and whether it's be extreme noise or whether it could be vaping. Otherwise we can't really get at that, right? So
Because we can't have cameras
So
in
we
bathrooms.
were gonna do 20, but we aren't gonna be able to afford that, so we're gonna strategically, do what we need to do. But we think it'll be a great deterrent. The principal will definitely let the kids know that this is for in their best interest,
Is that fly sense?
That's
the
Is
fly
that
sense.
where-
Yeah,
to
that's
deter-
the fly
to-
sense.
To deter both vaping and
Bullying or
bullying,
Fighting.
fighting, conflict.
we have a ton
And
of
also,
fighting.
we've spoken to other school districts that have had very positive experience with it, and they've also found a reduction in vandalism.
So it says here $7,500, that's what we're prepared to spend, but you're saying that there's.
That's what we
a-
have
a-
left in the budget, so
Yeah.
that's half of what we had originally hoped to have. But this gives us an opportunity to, A, start it before school, and B, to get 2 or 3 months, because the next round of money comes in November. So we would be in a position then to determine whether or not it's necessary to, to have the 20, maybe we don't need all that, so.
Okay.
That was a decision we made today, rather than say we don't have money for 20, so we're just gonna shelf it
Great
till we
start.
do. It's like, well, what could we get started with, and then really get a good feel for.
And that started at the high school.
Yes, originally we had included 2 in the Pembroke, because, the 5th and 6th
Fifth and
grade have
sixth
their,
grade.
their own floor.
Yep.
So that's in our long-term plan, is definitely to do that, but the target right now is the middle high school.
The thing to note, if I might, the thing to note about these devices is they're not a recording device,
No, yeah,
No.
and
There's
they're
no
not,
privacy,
they're not
right.
anything to do with video.
no, right,
It all has to do with
sound.
The
Sound
level
and-
of sound.
it will detect like vape smoke, cigarette smoke.
And what
stuff like
happens
that.
when it detects that
It,
vape?
we decide who gets an alert. So like the assistant principals, probably the school resource officers, the principal will all get alert.
A text.
So then, a text, so then if
Oh, it's
any,
a text?
so that if
So it's not a big
anybody,
alarm or.
No, and it
No,
says
no,
exactly,
no,
it says
no.
exactly what it is and exactly where it is.
and it actually shows the sound waves,
Yeah.
so they can see, you can see.
So again, text, we don't have like a central monitoring area in the school that like you can't look at a screen or something like that, it just goes to text?
Mike, do you know about that?
could do that, yeah.
We have cameras in a
You
section.
could do that, or we are doing that?
We could do that, it's up to the
I don't think we
principals,
talked about
how
that.
they wanna do it. We haven't really
We'll talk with the
discussed
principal
policy
about it.
Okay. Okay. All right, anybody else have
They just have questions.
anything on the board?
Just 2 real quick things. First of all, I worked with you on building out the website, and I just have
Yeah.
to say, one of the most passionate people I've ever
Yes,
worked with.
absolutely.
Oh, thank you.
And one of the hardest things about obviously building a website is having content. And I said to Pam, I said, "You sure you have enough content for this whole website?"
Oh, yeah.
Don't worry.
And that was, I asked the wrong question because it was like, boom, here you go. So
Well, we had a
you made it
very
easy.
primitive website before that I built on Google, but it was like awful. I don't think anybody ever used it now with the one you created. I'm sure that's gonna draw a lot more traffic.
Yeah.
I'm really
it's great.
glad Pam has a team, because she is passionate about it.
Yeah, no,
You
it's
can only
great.
do so much by yourself, right?
Right, exactly. No, the only other thing I was going to suggest for the rec room, if you put in, you said you were going to put it, maybe potentially some type of gaming thing for the kids or whatever. If you put in a Fortnite system in there or access to
Oh.
Fortnite, forget it. You'll have them lined out the door.
It's a good tip.
Yeah.
I'll have to remember that.
Thanks.
Well, there'll be
Real
lots.
genius, Kip.
Hey, I know how to get them.
You think we should have some tutors in there, some Fortnite tutors?
Oh, maybe I know how to play.
Actually, there was an article that
We need
said,
kids in
don't
front of
hire
video
Fortnite
games some more.
tutors.
They already are.
At least we know where they are.
Gary, go ahead.
Yeah, also, thank you. You've been doing a lot. I've been to a couple of your events.
Thank you.
Have you had,
Yeah.
there's another men's group, a men's group that I meet with on Monday mornings typically. And one of the things that came up today there was about substance abuse, and that the medical community is kind of perhaps now taking a different approach, in that
they are.
many people have already probably have something wrong in their life, and that's how they've got addicted. So have you had anybody in front of you or any plans to get anything and perhaps thinking that way? I do see you've got something down here about a community-wide mental health needs. Have you had any talk at all about that? You know, we've all heard the term self-medicating.
Yes,
And
yeah.
self-medicating can then lead to addiction, but there's usually a
Right.
reason. Something could happen in someone's life,
Yeah.
especially young people. I mean, because I mean, a lot of it looks like it's area that already being addicted in that. Although you've got the prevention.
Prevention.
But I mean,
Right.
any, or is that a difficult avenue to get into also because of,
You mean like the whole mental health and,
Yes.
you know, what's going on? Yeah, no, that's actually, we talked today about some potential
Talked about some of
topics.
that today,
Yeah,
Okay,
and,
good,
we have a
good.
couple of ideas. The real
Speaker's
challenge.
presentation for mental health and suicide prevention, I mean, that's another issue, and, you know, we do have, on the website, there are some local resources and ways for people to find treatment. Not just for substance abuse, you know, prevention, but for, any kind of emotional, social, emotional, mental,
yeah, it's sometimes difficult for
concern.
people
And
to
of
reach out
course,
for needs.
spiritual too.
and
You
Right,
can read, I mean,
exactly.
and we have all the faith community links there too. Some
Yeah.
people are more comfortable reaching out to a pastor. But I thought it was interesting what the chief was telling me, that they now are encouraged in Essex County, when they have there's been an overdose, a police, an officer will go back out to the person to follow up. And he has a whole list of actual, you know, treatment professionals. And he said it's kind of based out of a hub in Newburyport. And in Newburyport, they have a mental health luncheon, and all the mental health providers come, and so the Newburyport folks can keep their lists very current and up to date, because different mental health providers are gonna have different specialties and focuses, because everybody has, you know, different issues that are causing them to struggle and have angst. And you wanna find a treatment provider who specializes in, you know, whatever your issues are. So, you know, yeah, we are trying to, you know, provide,
great.
because we are local. This is how we're gonna wanna be different than a national, you know, thing you can just Google. Obviously, that's not hard to do. But we wanna take care of our community and let people know, you know, somehow what,
We have a number of things like,
Resources are
we work
local.
with the, Essex County, District Attorney's Office, having regular meetings where we talk about kids that are at risk and families and, you know, what kind of interventions can we do for them. We have a Signs of Suicide program that is in place in the schools.
which was a result of a previous survey that we
Right.
did, the attitudes and behavior survey.
You know, we have a number of programs in our health curriculums that are prevention kind of thing, and there've been a number of guest speakers. We have had Chris Herron, we've had this one woman whose daughter died basically she died of drinking too much, and she actually, it was very powerful. The kids, you know, were completely mesmerized. You know, there's programs like The Yellow Dress, which is about teen dating violence. So there's a number of those kind of things that we have done. You know, we did one that was really powerful on Facebook and how to use Facebook, because what happened is for 3 weeks before, we hired this young kid. For 3 weeks before, he followed the Georgetown kids' Facebook pages. He just friended people, right? And so he comes to the session and he has pictures up, of course, blurred faces, of here's what it's good about Facebook. And here's some pictures, not so good, right? Like your parents wouldn't want to see these pictures. And he basically pretended he was a kid moving to Georgetown, right? So everybody friended him. He had like 1,000 friends. And the kids had no idea that he was not real. And that they were like, you know, like that really taught them something about how do you work your settings. And so we try to do those kind of things that bring awareness to students, but they're kids. And the hardest thing is getting parents to come. And I know that parents are busy. We've got to crack that code. We've been taping things and showing it on GCTV, hoping that helps. We've been Facebook living things, you know, trying to.
Which
hope,
parents seem to like a lot.
Which parents like, but we really
But
want,
then
we really want the
we want them to
dialogue,
come.
right? And that's,
You know, watching it on Facebook is a lot different than participating.
then
in the
participating,
actual event.
absolutely.
And that's what the goal is, to have the community participate
Right.
as a whole.
Yeah,
'Cause
if
we
you have
want- we
food
wanna
and,
know-
These
you're right,
behaviors and issues that students go through.
yeah.
still prevalent in the adult community, it's just
Absolutely,
Sure.
hidden better.
absolutely.
Yeah, so we really have to do something about that, because, you know, if you go to open house or you go to literacy night, the place is packed. The police could find their quota in tickets because people are parked everywhere, right? But that's different, right? So we're trying to figure out like what's the secret sauce to, and so some of it is, you know, doing something that people feel they need,
Right.
but
So we're listening,
We're
we're
listening,
open
yeah,
to,
we're open.
you know, whatever people believe. If you have any ideas for us, on how to engage
Yeah.
the community more, please do
Yeah.
share it. Please don't ever be afraid to, you know, I'm just, pick up the phone, call me, email me, you have an idea, or Doug, anyone, we'd
I'd
love
love
to,
to, Doug,
love to
yeah.
hear your
yeah,
ideas.
and we're looking forward to continuing to work with you on it.
Right.
All
Hey,
right.
thank you so much
Okay,
for
very
coming out
good.
tonight, we really appreciate
Appreciate
it.
it.
Great job.
Thank you, thanks.
Great job.
Thank you.
All right, moving forward, request from High Five, Ashley, why don't you come on up?
Hey guys,
Hey.
I'm
How you
Karen
doing?
Steves. Good. Here to talk about the second annual Area 4 full mile race. So we're just seeking approval today for the November 10th date. Same course as last year,
Mhm.
and all the proceeds still going to Area 4.
Awesome, how'd it go last year?
Awesome. Yeah, yeah.
Any issues?
No issues.
Okay, great. I see on here you've already approached Lieutenant Hatch. Police know about it. You've worked. Seems like you've worked everything out already.
Yep.
Routes, police details, insurance is in place. Yes.
No, we were waiting for the approval,
I thought I saw.
and then we were gonna send it over.
Okay. So any motion would have to have that built in it. Okay. All right. For anybody have any questions?
Yeah, what was the date again?
November 10th.
November 10th.
It's with the
Yep.
pancake breakfast.
It's
It's in
after,
this-
so you carbo load first and then go out?
Ah, you run and then you eat the
Oh,
pancakes.
All right. Great. All right. So if we could hear a motion.
I would move that the Board of Selectmen approve the annual Erie 4, 5 EM run and pancake breakfast for November 10th, contingent on securing proper insurance.
Second?
Okay. Motion is second. Any discussion on this? Not all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for your patience.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Get your 5 minutes of fame.
What was the date again?
November 10th.
Number 10.
All right, so I guess we have some members of Peak here tonight.
Joe,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
there's a common vic license.
Oh, yeah.
A common vic license. Where? Appointments.
Yeah. Justin's big.
Okay, we have someone here for that. I'm sorry, I didn't realize. Gentlemen, give me 1 second.
I'm Michael Clancy.
Hi, Michael. How you doing?
Very good.
All right. Thank you, Mike, for pointing that out. I wasn't. I actually thought you were with Carolyn and her group.
Well, I was earlier.
All right. If you could introduce yourself for the record.
Michael Clancy.
Yeah. And you live in town?
I do on Charles Street.
All right, great. Well, welcome. So why don't you tell us a little bit about why you're here? And
We've purchased a food trailer, so we'll be mostly working out of state in New Hampshire and Vermont, and Maine. But if something ever popped up in Georgetown, I want to make sure I have the right permits to do it.
okay. All right. All right.
He has the state,
Yeah, I have.
peddler's, license and a, approval from the Board of Health.
Board of Health. Okay, that was going to be actually one of my questions. Okay.
Sales
So
tax
Board of Health
license.
already has that squared away. All right.
So,
I think that was my only thing.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Doug.
Where would you plan on putting the food vehicle?
In Georgetown, I have nothing planned right now. It's just in the event that something come up, or maybe a fundraising event, or next summer down in the park for a Sunday night concert series. I know there's a few vendors that do it now.
Did you mean the storage, Doug, of the
The
vehicle?
storage or
Is that what
working?
you were asking?
Oh, no, not the store, because I know
Oh,
where it's
sorry.
stored, it's at his house.
Yeah,
I saw
storage
it
is
the
in my
other
second
day
driveway
When I
now.
was visiting
I
his
thought you
neighbor.
meant that, yeah.
he didn't plan to put it permanently in
Yeah,
place in
there's
town.
nothing, it's just if something comes up, I wanna make sure all my ducks are in a row.
Right, just that you have a license to do so.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. All right, any further questions, guys?
Type of food are you?
Anything, right now, we do a lot of sweets, cupcakes, cake pops, brownies, the
Okay.
trailer's set up for french fried chicken fingers, burgers, hot dogs, cotton candy, fried dough.
Thank
Good. Alan?
Just a quick question. So if, you know, if there's an event down at American Legion Park, is that a separate permitting process? If you wanted to do that, or is this just, you know, 365 days, he can put it anywhere he wants in town?
We have a food truck bylaw, I believe.
Right, but he
But,
doesn't qualify for that. I mean,
Oh.
he just,
That's if you're gonna be in one spot. If you're gonna be at American Legion Park every Tuesday or every day for, you know, the year, then that was what our mobile park. But he has the state one, but it would be mostly, you'd have to have approval if there's an event. He couldn't just go park at the park.
Yeah, at the
And
time
so-
comes, I was gonna reach out to the concert series and be put on their list. I don't know how they choose food vendors now. I believe there's only been 2 there this summer.
Park and Rec would be.
Yeah.
And they have-
Yeah, that's a good question, because I know, this was many years ago, the town of Wakefield, I think, there was a hot dog vendor by Lake Quantapowhat, and it was actually state-owned land, and there was a big battle back and forth between the town and him, and he's stationed there every day. So, but that's
Yeah,
not your
certainly
intention.
not my intention,
That's not
no.
your intention.
No, it's
Okay.
just if something come up at church fair or,
Sure.
you know, something at the school or,
Okay.
you know, a private residence even in town, I think there's a need for.
Cool.
Well, I know,
catering at a
I do
private
know there's
residence.
one spot where you couldn't put a vehicle, and that would be by Harry Murch Veterans Park.
Well, of course, yeah.
Gary, did you have any questions?
Just, on the, I guess the second page of the application, Pittsfield, Mass. comes up now. Is that, you mentioned you just
That's-
recently
Well,
purchased
the
this? or-
Pittsfield, Mass. is my registered agent for my LLC,
Okay,
so, you know, I have other people handle that. So that's why the Pittsfield, Mass., they're my registered agent. My other license is through, it does have my Charles Street address, I believe.
yeah, yeah, it was on the back side, I saw.
Yeah, on the state license, is that what you're looking at right here?
Yes, I guess, yeah.
Well, yeah, that's my registered agent's address. The sales tax, meals tax license has Charles Street.
Okay. All right, to me, everything looks in order.
Yeah, the liability insurance is there.
So I would move that, Mr. Chair, that Georgetown Board of Selectmen would approve a common victualer's license for Justine's Baked Goods LLC, whose business is located at 10 Charles Street in Georgetown.
Second.
To expire.
To expire.
Oh, to expire, what's it, a year? December?
December.
To expire December 31st, 2000 and, what year are we in?
18.
18.
Second.
All right, motion is second. Any further discussion?
Yes, if I may, on our application though, as you said, we've got the Board of Health is signed off, but, and this is probably more for us internally, do we need to perhaps change this, because we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 that need to sign off?
That's,
Got building.
that's usually when it's, we only, well, this is a new, but he's not a building.
Yeah,
We have those sign-offs for when they're a new license and our new building, if it was going into. it was
okay,
not
so,
going
so
into.
this isn't really, I guess I'm a little, yeah, okay, this is the common vic's license, this
Yeah.
isn't like the food truck license, so that, I think that's where my mind was,
Right,
yeah.
and those, yeah. Where he
So
was
the rest of
going
these
to.
are really not applicable.
Right, the others aren't applicable.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
All set?
All right,
Good luck.
thank you.
Thank you, good
Best of luck. Come on up.
Come on down. Just move as many chairs as you want right up.
Yeah, we'll just have to
give us a slide.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for your patience. I would like to kind of clear the room or as much as possible, for these kind of discussions.
Absolutely. No, thank you very much for having us.
Sure.
Good evening, everyone. We're just gonna hand out a few presentation packets for this evening. I know you guys have had a long night so far, so we'll try and be concise and
We've been known to go
but informational.
Since a certain chair took over.
Won't say a word.
So, good evening, everyone, members of the board. My name is Daniel Glissman. I'm an attorney with Prince Lobel Tie, and I'm here on behalf of my clients, Peak Limited, in connection with their proposal for a marijuana product manufacturing and transportation facility at 114 Jewett Street. A little bit about my background. I've been working in the cannabis industry here in Massachusetts basically since its inception through Prince Lobel. We started with one of the first dispensaries in the city of Boston, and we've since worked in a number of municipalities and sort of built a little bit of a niche practice here in the space. So we've been working consistently through the medical program and now into the recreational program. The Kumps have been longtime clients of Prince Lobel, so there was a natural fit here, and we're excited to be working with them. So we're also joined this evening by a couple of members of our consultant team. We have Brian Staffa and Dan Batesel, PhD of the Staffa Consulting Group. And again, so we're here this evening, obviously, in connection with this proposed production and transportation facility. And one of the things that I'd really like to highlight in connection with this proposal is the fact that it's going to be a locally owned and operated business. The Kumps have been operating a boutique real estate and cabinet manufacturing company here in Georgetown for 32 years. They source their employees locally, and they'd really like to continue down that path. There's a bit of vacant space right now on one side of their manufacturing building, so they're hoping to fill that with this proposed use. This process, as the board is likely aware, we're here seeking a host community agreement. We hope to enter a host community agreement with the town of Georgetown so that we can facilitate our state licensing application. In connection with that permitting process, we will also be holding a community meeting, which we've scheduled for this Thursday, the 16th. I believe it's been noticed. It should be on the town's board, and we've sent out flyers to our abutters within 300 feet. We've posted notice in the newspaper, so it'll be at the VFW at 7 p.m. We're excited to talk to any of our neighbors and alleviate any of their concerns. And certainly, once we complete the host community agreement process and the community meeting process, we'll move forward immediately with filing the state licensing applications. It's a lengthy process right now in Massachusetts. The Cannabis Control Commission is kind of just getting up and running. There's hundreds of applications in, many of which are incomplete. But it's a process. We expect to be sort of working through the state process for 4 or 5 months, during which time we'll also move forward, ideally with the local special permit process through the planning board. So by the time we hit completion with the state, we'll also have the local approvals in place, and we'll be able to move forward. So I think with that, I want to pass it off to Brian Staffa. He's going to talk a little bit about this company, this project, and just what these manufacturing facilities really are. So Brian, please.
Thank you very much, Dan, and just hang out right here so as not to push one of these gentlemen out of the seat. To give you a little bit of a high overview, I'm the founder of BSC Group. We've had success in 24 of the now 30 states in which medical cannabis is legal in the U.S. and that's, in some form or fashion auditing, or actually, and what we're doing here is getting us completely licensed and operational. So we've got a tremendous number of resources at our disposal, and a gentleman sitting directly next to me here is just one of the really well-qualified professionals that we have on our team that is leading the comps here, as well as Peak as a whole. Dan has his PhD in chemistry and has had, I feel bad speaking on your behalf here, but has had great experience in other states like Illinois with their medical program, being able to get different labs and manufacturing facilities up online. And so this is not our first walk in the park in being able to take a medical marijuana manufacturing facility, in this case adult use, and get it from concept to opening. And really our biggest emphasis in any state that we go into is really to sit at one of these type of meetings, get local approval first, and really understand what everyone's looking for and get some comfort and understanding, and to be able to use the resources that we have to action that. A lot of questions often come up, what goes on in this type of facility, who works there, and to the point of carrying on the tradition that the Comps have gone through for the last 32 years, did I get that right, of operation here. We will be sourcing as many of our people locally as we can, and what is it that they're going to do there, right? What we'll be doing is we'll be sourcing dried flower from within the state with a licensed operator. We already have one relationship lined up. We expect to line up a few more so that we're not reliant on one specific person or company to be able to supply our product. But basically, you take the dried flower that everybody imagines to be cannabis, dried cannabis, and at a high level, we put it through a machine, an extraction machine that will subject us to some pressure, and basically out the other side we get cannabis oil, and from there we'll be taking it and breaking it down and infusing it into other products. Most manufacturers will do some sort of like a chocolate product, a tincture, a lozenge, those types of things. And right now we're still solidifying exactly the types of products that we plan to manufacture, and the market will dictate that to a certain extent, but we're still figuring all of that out right now, and trying to make the decision on what will be best. Dan, if I can bring you up a little bit and just to talk a little bit about how we've designed the facility up until this point, and really talk about things as it relates to workflow and
And also, if I might just add,
please.
I just want to jump in. I think an important concept for this facility is that it's a business to business. So they're sourcing their product from in-state companies, which is the cannabis flower, and then converting it into a final product, and then selling it to a retail distributor. So there's no business to consumer concept here. It's directly business to business on both ends of the supply chain.
yeah, thank you for clearing that up.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for reinforcing that for all those out there. An important point, I think, for a lot of folks here in town, FYI, for Thursday. You probably want to get that point across.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I'm an industrial chemist, and I've been, I had 30 years experience in industry, and I've been in cannabis for the past 3.5 years. And it's all about product safety and workplace safety, respect for the environment. And that's what we've, in the designs that we've been working with Matt and Ken with, the facility is being designed for those purposes. And so it's really my great pleasure to consult on this. And if there's any questions on any of the particular pictures, there's some equipment shown in there. There's some machines for extraction and distillation. There's some instruments for determining purity of the compounds, and these are the equipment that the Peak will have at their facility. And not to mention that the whole facility is designed with workplace safety and respect for environment. No different than a Nabisco. This facility has a commercial kitchen in it, so it's like Nabisco in some respects. And the facility also has a chemical extraction and distillation operation. So it's like Cabot in some other respects, and both of these are under one roof. And so we take great pride in getting those things right, so that there's no cross-contamination between the kitchen side and the chemical side, and just being able to design that facility for the right material flow and the right workflow and the right safety, working with Chief Mitchell and working with the Board of Health. We just want to get it right.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's all about. Safety is number one.
Thanks very much,
Thanks.
Dan. So just to kind of close, and one of the points that I'd like to include as well is this is the first phase of the proposed projects here at 114 Jewett Street. The CUMPS would ultimately also like to include a cultivation component to this project. They've got the space available now, but the cultivation aspect is a little bit more involved in terms of engineering. They'll have to build a new building for this. So the idea was this phase one is to get this product manufacturing and transportation license and company up and running, and ultimately, if all things go well, they'd love to move forward and expand that facility. They've got quite a bit of space in that little block of Jewett Street, and like to take advantage of all the opportunities they have there. And we feel it's a really fantastic location. I mean, the town is well aware of this. They zoned that area specifically for these uses, but with a limited number of abutters, it's a great location for a compound of this nature. So we hope to have the host community agreement that we ultimately hope to enter into with the town of Georgetown to reflect a cultivation use at some point in the future, which certainly we would come back before the planning board for in terms of a special permit application process. We'll have to go through additional licensing from the state. Certainly the first aspect of this is going to be the production facility, but ultimately they'd love to be able to supply themselves and produce sort of all of their own products down the supply chain line.
Their cultivation is strictly for this product that would stay distribution, right? It's not cultivation then to turn around and sell retail.
That's right. To my knowledge, there's no intention of proposing a retail site in Georgetown or at that location.
Try to be vertically integrated and to control our own product.
100% control across the board, so I know it's coming out of one and going into the other.
Yeah, and the vertical integration is a concept that really came from the medical side. As this board's well aware, the medical companies were required to they had to grow it themselves, produce it into any products, and sell it. On the adult use side, and ultimately, when the Cannabis Control Commission takes over the medical program, they've separated those licenses, so you're not required to be vertically integrated, but the successful companies in this space are, just because it's the best way to control costs.
Right, understood. Is that is there verbiage, in the current host agreement surrounding, if, this happens, they have to come back in?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
That would all be.
It would be the
like a
same
separate
company, it's
paragraph.
just adding an element to, a division, so to speak.
Listen, I get it, but unfortunately, this is stuff that has to be put in these host
Absolutely,
agreements.
If I could just add too, I've had my business 32 years, it's been 26 or 27 in the town, and, it's a little more than a mom pop operation, but I'm the pop and I'm still running it. And Premier Builders, we have a kind of reputation for quality and trying to do things right, and that's the goal here. I think our first meeting here, we were all caught a little bit by surprise, and I don't know how we came across, but I wanted to present our team of experts, and we want to do this thing right. Premier Builders is going to stay in business. Our goal is to stay adjacent to this. I have a vacancy in that building. This opportunity came along, and it all kind of, came to fruition with Matt's vision here. It's going to be under the same stewardship. The building, the company is going to have the same people involved that are involved in Premier Builders, and the way that we treat our neighbors and the look of the building and the upkeep and those types of things, are gonna stay in a respectful manner. And I just wanna emphasize that we're not going anywhere as premier builders. You know, this will be another, facility within the same building, but instead of an outside tenant, it'll be kind of our own situation. So
Sure.
I hope that's helpful, you know?
Mr. Chair, I might just add that Attorney Glissman and I have, we came to a verbal agreement as far as, you know, dollars. But the rest of the document needs to be taken care of.
Okay.
All right, so we'll have that, but just to let you know that we have reached, you know, a verbal agreement after a few hours of mixed martial arts, but, you know.
So what are we looking at in terms of completion?
Well, it's just a
About
matter
another
of,
week,
just a
or
matter
we
of
talking
getting.
about
Oh,
a month?
if that, so we just received
After.
the first draft. We had submitted a draft host agreement of our own initially, maybe a month ago. Then we met with Mike and Doug on the July 19th, I believe, just to kind of give them a similar overview to this project. And then we received a copy of the draft host agreement from Town Council last Wednesday. So we we responded with some initial comments. Our firm still has to take a look at the host agreement language, but I anticipate that it's only minor sort of legal changes that will take place. We've gotten to an understanding of the fundamentals of the agreement, which is the critical components, being the financial contributions to the town and the community impact fee. I just gave my business card to Georgetown Cares. We think they're a great charity. We love to be good corporate citizens and do our best to participate in that organization as well.
Sold. All right. All right. You had mentioned Chief Mitchell. Have you sat down with Chief Cudmore yet?
Chief Cudmore did receive an email. I have been away. My buddy just got married, so I was in Nashville. But yes, Chief does have this security plan. And I intend tomorrow to go down to his office and sit with him.
Okay. Because I think I had mentioned that's always important to me.
Absolutely.
Okay. So
I sent the initial draft of the security plan over to Don. He responded to me saying he'd review it. I didn't know if he was coming to this meeting or not, to give this presentation to him. But there's been constant communication. He was here at our first meeting and kind of said a few kind words about us and the location. I've invited him over to the building to see it and to walk through with this plan. Beyond the preliminary plan, which our consultants have pulled together, we'll be working with
Dan Linsky.
Dan
with
Linsky.
Kroll Securities.
Yeah. So
head of Boston Disputes and Investigations for the last 5 years.
Yeah, so Dan Linsky and his team over at Kroll Securities, they're a consultant that we work with on a lot of these cannabis projects. He was the former chief of police for the city of Boston for many years, and he's now gone into the private sector, and he's working on security for a lot of these companies. I've connected him with the comps, and I think we hope to engage them and make sure that the Chief Cudmore is very comfortable with our proposal here.
okay. All right. Yeah, just like I said, it always makes it's a big part of it for me. All right, so I would make sure you get that done sooner than later.
Yep.
All right, and once Donnie reaches out, I think we'll be.
And he's aware that we're working with Kroll too.
Yeah, after that meeting, Donnie and I probably have a dozen emails going back and forth of just me updating him, making sure he's on the same page.
Okay. Questions from the board?
I just said, like you say, if you do the cultivation, then that would just be your sole source of bud for your product, or would you still be buying from other sources?
No, I'd probably want my own self-control on the entire operation so that it's, pure as can be from the peak standpoint. Unless it was something where, we were on the smaller side of the facility with our cultivation and we did have more, then we would be linking with the local cannabis companies around here to try to source their products as well.
And I think to get started, we're gonna be doing other people's work at first. We're hoping to be a subcontract with them, so to speak, to extract for them, infuse if they need it,
Sure.
and deliver product. And I think there's gonna be a business model that starts that way and then drives towards our own brand.
When you mention transportation,
Yeah.
you're just talking about you're getting your own product, putting it in a truck, and you're delivering it out.
That's right.
It's inherent in the initial license, I believe.
Yeah, it's an ancillary license. You have to publicly notice it, just so that when we actually go to file, that there are two separate licensing applications. One is a marijuana product manufacturing license, and the other one is called a transportation license with an existing license, effectively. So we have to identify them both on the record, and with noticing, so that the state is comfortable that we've identified the two processes that we're proposing when we go to actually file.
We're not trying to form a trucking company for the cannabis industry.
Right.
It's to transport the goods to and from our facility to other businesses and back
Yeah.
and forth.
And again, it's a business-to-business proposal. They'll be transporting. It will essentially authorize them to transport their own products to the retail outlets and pick up products as necessary.
Right.
Okay.
And signage has no reference to cannabis or?
No, it's all regulated under the state law. So, even the name has to be not a colloquial reference to cannabis in some form. So, this is one of the most heavily regulated industries in the state right now. I think you guys are seeing the product of that with multiple good proposals coming before the town.
Dana mentioned safety. Chief Mitchell, any concerns?
No, I think our conversation before the meeting was basically they're gonna have to have made all the applicable fire codes and also OSHA standards for the operation. And I think sometimes when you deal with certain operations that could potentially be dangerous, that the guidelines are very strict, for the processing part of it. So I don't think there's gonna be any really leniency. Speaking with Mr. Crump, early, the building's sprinkled, so right off the bat, we're already halfway home for fire safety. It's a sprinkled building. So with their operation, when they get to the point of presenting plans, we'll take a look at it and apply the fire code as needed to move forward.
What about this equipment? I mean, I know you're not an expert at any of this
Well, I
equipment,
mean,
but how do we look at this equipment?
Well, as far as the equipment goes, they're gonna have to maintain, any type of standards put out by OSHA for operations for that. Any safety features, they're gonna have to adhere to, and the machines themselves from the manufacturer, where they buy their machines from.
Matt, as far as the equipment itself, I mean, are you going to have anybody on your staff that is experienced with this kind of equipment? Or,
Absolutely. Yeah, it's not going to be
it's not going to be like a training thing?
It's not going to be ask investors for money and then try to dry run these machines. We're going to have experts that know how to run these machines and train other individuals to become experts if need be.
That's where our consultants come in.
Yeah, certainly. And this industry is really burgeoning in Massachusetts and across the country, frankly. And there's a lot of people at this point with experience, even just in the state. So there should be no issue finding skilled labor to manage this process.
If I could just expand on the safety concerns with the chief as well. We found our current facility, we do spray finishes, and so we deal with solvents and paints and so forth, and we have a professional OSHA-approved spray booth. We get inspected by the fire department on a yearly basis, and we handle these types of materials in the right containers, as metal containers, as we have N-Pro come and take any of our discarded materials. We have special containers that we're required to do a procedure each night and shut it down so there's no fire issues, no solvents that can evaporate in the air in the middle of the night, that type of thing. So we're very familiar, we're trained, we have to do OSHA training with our guys on a yearly basis. So I'm familiar with the processes along the way, as is Matt, to do this type of thing, and we've been compliant with the fire department right from the beginning. So it's not unfamiliar territory.
Do you have? And I'm sorry to keep sorry to be monopolizing the conversation. If anybody has any questions, chime in. So your construction, say a part of the building, and then you have a cultivation side, or not so much cultivation yet, but you're gonna be working with, the buds and everything else. Any concern about like dust and stuff like that
we don't-
getting over? I mean, how does that work?
We're, it will be a completely separate building altogether with being on the 113 Jewett Street side of the
We own 3
street.
pieces of real
Yeah.
estate in the zone
Oh,
that
so
are all
it's a different
adjacent to
building.
each
I
other.
thought it was like one big building, like you had
No.
one wing and,
No.
Premier's over on.
Cabinet
here
shop
on this-
manufacturing, the cannabis extraction
on the other side,
manufacturing in
and
one
then new
building.
building when we go cultivation.
Across the street on a
across
different
the
piece of
street.
Oh,
property.
right, when you
Yeah.
start cultivating, but I mean, when you start, you're not gonna be cultivating.
No.
You're gonna be using,
Oh, it'll be
You know-
constructed in a way that there'll be no way for any sort of dust to get into our completely sealed off type.
We can't have any
situation.
impurities.
Yeah.
That's all.
If I can speak just to the way that
Sure.
it'll basically look at the manufacturing facility as it is now, and there will be completely 2 separate halves, to the point that the HVAC system is completely separate, and any door that will be, adjacent from the cabinet shop to the extraction facility,
Yep.
it will be a controlled access door, so that you actually have to swipe in with your fob that's unique to each individual person. That all gets recorded in the central command for the security system, and everybody in the building has their own key tag, and if you don't have access, you simply can't enter.
Okay.
So it's completely sealed off, and I hear, and I can truly appreciate your concern with contamination, and we won't have that, we won't really have to.
what's my concern for them? I
know,
I wouldn't
but-
want, the same thing happening, in
No,
terms of
they
contamination.
engineer the
that
environment
happens
for
to our
negative
system.
air pressure and so
Clean
forth, so
room
that.
type of
Clean
environment.
room,
That's right.
exactly.
It's gonna be
That's
the best
exactly
product
right.
in the industry if we can get there.
Yep.
Typically, the commercial kitchen is under a slight positive pressure, and the extraction room is under a slight negative pressure. And that's just one of the ways that we prevent cross-contamination of chemical substances with the food substances. And then there's also certain workflows and work rules. You'll see in some of the plans that the kitchen actually has a little locker area separating it from the extraction and distillation room. So if someone was going from room to room, they'd actually stop, change their shoes, and change their work garment before they go into the other room. So it's really, there's sort of engineering aspects and architectural aspects to the layout that we provided and designed. But there's also going to be good management practices that you have to build into your management and hiring, into
Training,
management. Training, exactly.
And I'm sure you guys got that. I was just more for my information. I was just kind of curious to see how you guys were doing it. Okay, any?
No, my one
Further
question was
issues,
about
questions?
transportation, it's been answered, so.
Dave, you good? Doug, you?
I'm all set.
Yeah, it's just, strictly wholesale that we,
That's right,
You
yeah,
guys
it's a business to business, operation, so they're selling to, the retail outlets.
gotcha.
So the question, you will,
Yeah.
that's it. So the question for the board, because I know you guys are anxious to get the host agreement agreed upon, signed, everything else. Our next meeting's not till September 10th scheduled, okay, but I'm sure you would probably want something before that if possible. Is the board open to, once Doug has this completed, possibly come together, to review it and possibly even vote it?
Sure.
Special meeting, yeah.
Yeah, is that, you guys good?
Fine with it.
All right.
Just try not the middle of the day anymore.
I will add, for all present, that I am going on vacation. My son held us hostage for baseball, up until this week, so now I can leave for a little while. But I leave on Saturday until next Saturday. So what I will say is that if we can get a meeting done before I leave, fine. But if not, I might still have to wait, until I get back. So if we can get, you think there's a possibility?
We'll be talking with John anyhow tomorrow, try to, John and Tom.
I'll do everything I can this week, but I'm not.
Was Tom out for 2 weeks?
Not two, but I'm not.
Well, we'll be
I
talking
think
with.
he's back this week sometime.
Either Tom or John Eichman.
Mhm.
I'll be calling there tomorrow.
All right, so I'll communicate, and our commitment here is that once we can get this agreed upon, we'll do everything in our power to get it voted, okay?
Thank you.
Again, we're at that part of the year, you know, we have vacations and
Yep.
everything else, so we'll do what we can,
Understood.
okay?
Thank you very much.
Sure. And, I mean, I would go as far as to say, I don't think my wife will let me come back from vacation just to vote this, so I'm gonna say it'll be a week, when I'm gone. so.
Mike models that.
Yeah, I don't know how we finagle that one, but my wife's probably good with that, so. Any other questions?
Switching from fresh water to salt.
Just if we could hear the date of your community meeting again for, it's this Thursday,
This
7 p.m.?
Thursday, the 16th at 7 p.m. at the VFW.
Okay.
That could be a good place to bring my wife for our anniversary.
She'll love that.
You might hear about that tonight when you get home.
I was gonna say, right, that's what I was just thinking. Gentlemen, do you have any questions for us as a board?
I don't think so.
No,
Concerns?
appreciate you.
Yeah,
your
No,
help
it's
with
our
this.
pleasure. Listen, you know, you guys are part of Georgetown, and I certainly hope this works out. Again, I'll stress once again, get with Donnie, you know, for me, and have Donnie reach out to us. I would like a thumbs up from him.
Yeah, of course.
So
I'll
that's
have him
something
call
on
you.
board.
Or email
Okay,
you.
before we, at least before I am comfortable, you know, moving forward. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. Thank you again for your patience.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
very much.
Let's get your bag there.
All right, for those at home looking at an agenda, you see a community host agreement for Cult of Honor as well. We're gonna skip over that, for this evening. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
While we're on this,
Yes.
I just wanted to just share with the board a couple points. Article that I had recently read. Okay, it's short. It's short. So I don't know if you're all aware, but there was an article in the Globe just this past month in July. I think it was the end of July. Talking about the Cannabis Control Commission, and they spoke again, and I'll preface this by saying I'm not saying that we're doing any of this. I just wanted the board to be aware. You know, it looks like that there are some towns that have been making deals in their hosting agreements that are outside of what the 3% requirement that the Control Commission now thinks that it's excessive.
They think the 3% excessive, or the
No,
deals
the
outside? of
things,
3%?
yeah,
Okay.
the deals outside. In one of the quotes from the article here from the commission, and I think the thing that concerns me about this is that the Cannabis Control Commission is now entering into making decisions on what happens with the hosting agreements, whereas before, you know, they said, boom, you guys can go do what you want. It's evolved into, here are the requirements now that we're gonna set up, which has evolved again, that's saying, well, you can't do anything excessive, you have to use it for this, you can't use it for that. They were quoted as saying that municipalities are cautioned against relying on fees that are simply revenue generators, as these fees may not withstand judicial scrutiny. The document essentially rejects arguments by attorneys for municipalities who have said that nothing in the law prohibits voluntary side deals with pot companies. So just the view that I can see here, I'm starting to see that we could be getting into a situation where they're going to apply other rules, other regulations. I think there was a concern, Doug, that you had mentioned about the 3% local excise tax on wholesales. I don't know if that's been decided or not, but that's still out there, and as you can see, we're hearing from people that are wholesalers. When that 3% local excise tax is, I don't know if it's
Not allowed.
Okay, So it's not allowed, so, okay.
At this point.
Okay. I think the other thing that we need to keep in mind is that they still haven't decided, or they still haven't proposed the regulations for whether wholesalers have the ability to deliver to residents. And I think they're gonna do that in February. So my whole concern here, and I think I've expressed it a gazillion times, I know I probably sound like a broken record, but I am not against having these businesses in town. I just caution the board that if we truly want all these businesses in town that do this, great, that's your decision. But if it's simply just because we're getting a hosting agreement and we're getting revenue from it, I want the board to keep in mind that those could start shrinking. The Cannabis Control Commission is already starting to poke their nose now into this. And it's clear, they're already telling municipalities that you shouldn't rely on the fees for revenue. So the concern that I have is that if we decide that we want these businesses in here solely for the reason that it's gonna be good for the town in terms of revenue, then if that revenue were to vanish, that everyone on this board is okay with having these types of businesses in town.
Can I just give a little response?
Yeah, that's all I had, so.
May I address
I didn't
that
wanna
too?
start
All right,
a
hold on,
debate or
slow
anything,
down. So listen, we're kind of getting on time, right? So I'll give you a couple minutes. I want this completed in 5 minutes.
Yeah, it won't
Right,
take
so go
long.
ahead.
It's just that, I agree, and I won't be surprised if at some point hosting agreements completely go away. I think that's part of why this board, I think in the past, and I hope in the future, has been trying to not make it part of a general budget that we rely on. But I will say also that, that the new growth that comes from new taxes and I mean, who was it? Nate? Nate, he presented to us at that workshop meeting that we had, and I mean, the new growth right there in what they got hit with on property tax, I mean, and that's there to say, those type of things.
Sure.
And, yeah, so.
Well, that could happen with
That's
other
basically what I
yeah.
wanted to say, so
But
I
that
mean.
could happen with other
I-
businesses as well. I
I
think
agree,
that
but we don't have
Carlton
other
Drive-
businesses knocking on the door like we.
Carlton Drive, I think they just opened, they just completed
Yeah.
an agreement, and it's going to be a
Well, that's all I
manufacturer,
wanted
and
to
they're
say.
gonna do that.
You know, I hear you and I understand.
Yeah, I just want everyone to understand that, and I'm sure you guys do, that it's, if you want it here, great, if that's the purpose. If it's only
So-
for revenue, that could go.
So I'll just, from the beginning, since Healthy Farms first came before us, I have stated to the board that all of these things that are happening that are taking place, will have taken place. And they will all be applied through the judiciary system. It's just the way that it works, because it's such a new and controversial industry. So everything, the CCC has said, oh, we don't look at host agreements. Well, there were a couple of legislators that wrote a letter, and I won't tell you why, but they wrote a letter to the CCC and complained because there were some municipalities that were charging 4 or more % and having what they call side deals. It's been, Mike and I have worked within this, especially for this recreational, to try to make sure that our entire agreement falls within 3%. Now, there are areas that, who knows? Who knows? Because we just don't know what they're gonna do. And it could be. And I have always cautioned that we don't use these things for budgetary items.
That's right.
You know?
No doubt about it. And Doug, I'll also commend you once again. Doug's doing a great job spearheading a lot of this effort, including, Doug, why don't you actually go into how you've tried to really reach out to Senator Tarr and Representative Mira regarding funds, and
Right.
trying to figure out what we can do, because right now those funds are kind of held hostage. I mean, there's not a whole hell of a lot we can do with them.
This legislation that's stuck in the House Ways and Means Committee that has language that could affect host agreements, or what we can do with money, because we had talked about the possibilities. Can we have a put in a cap fund, a reserve fund, or OPEB fund, or something like that? I mean, just name them. And the answer has been right now, well, if this legislation passes, no. Steve had done something, there was an article, a link that you sent about,
Yeah,
was
in
it
the Globe.
Milton or Milford, or?
Oh,
One of
yeah,
those towns that,
Right,
that
the town of
that
Milford.
the
to
Board of
do their-
Selectmen voted to put any of their proceeds into whatever the fund was.
Right.
Well, we don't know, you said that they actually, did they ask for legislation
It
to
was
do
a
that?
home rule or home act or something.
Yeah, yeah.
It was- Yeah, stabilization, yeah.
So, all these things, nobody knows. Everybody's out here
Sure.
on a piece of driftwood floating back and
It
forth
was
trying to
what,
figure
Mike?
it out.
What was that called?
Home rule
Home rule.
petition.
Yeah,
It has to go through the state legislature.
yeah.
Special legislation.
And
So was
yeah,
that
and
money earmarked towards something where it got approved by that?
It's just going through the process.
Oh, it's going through the
Yeah,
process,
yeah.
okay.
See, now, this happened
I remember
Oh,
that, I
that's
just don't
fine,
remember
yeah.
it.
This happened 5-6 years ago or whatever, and the municipality of Plymouth petitioned the state legislature to see if they could impose a 5% excise tax. And it died in committee. It stayed there in the legislature for 2 years, and it died in committee. So, and then we came out of some of these host agreements. I can tell you that I don't believe, I've had this conversation, I don't believe in 5 years, maybe it's less, maybe it's more, but I don't think there'll be host agreements. And it will eventually come back down to what Plymouth wanted from the beginning, was to have just a straight, hey, towns, you can do this, X percent or whatever.
No, and I think you've done a great job, and don't get me wrong, I'm not.
I don't get you wrong.
Yeah, I'm not saying that we shouldn't have these businesses, I just think that there's a whole lot of unknowns right
Well-
now, and
well, listen.
we have an economic development committee that's working really hard to get this town in a state that we want it to be. We had a strategic plan. I don't think there was anything in the strategic plan that said that we wanted all of these businesses in town. And again, I'm not against them being here. I just think we just need to pause, and we need to, we need to look at it, but that's all.
I mean, we're not inundated with these businesses yet, but with that being said, I think there will be a time, and has to be a time, that the board, whether we're on it or the next board or whatever, has to sit back and say, okay, when do we want to kind of shift back from this type of business, and basically say, okay, you know what, we have 2, 3, 4, 10, 15, whatever businesses. I mean, let's kind of shift back and, all right, this is it. We're gonna kind of leave that here. Maybe that's a conversation that
That's a
has to
good
be
point.
had at some point. Again, I don't think we're there. I mean, we're at the beginning of this, and we have maybe a few that will be in town, but at some point, I think there has to be some conversation, about that, because as I've said in the past, I also think there's some reputational risk that goes along, with it, whether it's legal, not legal, wholesale, retail, it doesn't matter. There are already people that have concerns over the couple that we've approved host agreements for, and that's only 2. So there will be a time that I think where, as a board, it has to come together and talk about direction.
Right. Now, I will
Can we just get
remind you that the voters of this community, by ballot, voted in favor of decriminalization. By ballot, voted in favor of question 3. By ballot, voted in favor of question 4. By town meeting, voted in favor of bylaws and medical cannabis district, recreational cannabis district, we modified the medical, right? And voted, so the voters of the community have made it clear. And I understand and I'm not sitting here saying what I'm for or against something. The Board of Selectmen asked me and Mike to be the point people for these things.
Yeah, yeah.
But we do have to tread
Yeah.
carefully.
Mhm.
And I don't think we have enough land to really,
I think it is a good, I mean, if we could, Mr. Chair, just for a discussion, what is the number? I think as we stand right now, we have 5 places that sell alcohol, and we're basically coming up to 4 within a 2-year period of marijuana facilities. Like,
Steve,
what do you guys think?
My attitude about it is when I see different businesses that are saying, "Hey, I want to be in Georgetown,"
Yeah.
and I see interest in other types of industry and industrial type businesses or even professional businesses that say, we want to set up shop in Georgetown. I think that for me is when that discussion comes up, because right now we have businesses that want to be in Georgetown, and
Yeah.
we haven't had that for a while. And we have had people continuously say we need commercial based commercial. Now this is not probably the commercial base they're talking about, but it's a commercial base nonetheless. Like Gary said, there's other funds coming in outside of just host agreements, and I think we've already mentioned on this board that this year we have a humongous challenge in front of us fiscally, to fund different staff funds. We have some other different I will call it let's see, what's the word? Goals, for some other departments, okay, that we want to look at. But everything takes green, guys, so until we have those industries coming in and trying to set up shop. I mean, I have told John Cashel, many times, and him and I are on the same page, that land on National Ave is for me agenda number 1. We gotta get that ready, for whatever we want to do with that land, because it is imperative, that we get that done. That's going to be a very important piece. So with that said, guys, let's move on. Let's see, it's 20 to 10. Sure. So we have. Let's see. Let me start from the top here.
some appointments.
Let's start with the. I don't know if there's an attachment to this. Hold on while I get to it. My computer's a little slow. Okay, so first we have notice of resignation of Corona Magner from the Council on Aging that I'm looking at here. So I want to thank Corona. Hopefully I'm pronouncing your name correctly. I want to thank you for all of your time and effort for our Council on Aging. We wish you the best moving forward. Secondly, we have the Historical Commission letter of support for the project of 51 West Main Street. That was basically a letter from the commission supplying their support, for the project at 51 West Main Street. So I certainly appreciate them forwarding that along to us, and we wish everyone luck on that. Moving forward, appointments and approvals. Request from the Assistant Town Clerk to approve the poll workers for the state primary for September 4th of 2018.
Can we just do this as presented? Or do we have to name all the people?
You should name them.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I move that the Georgetown Board of Selectmen approve the following poll workers for the state primary election to be held on Tuesday, September 4th. Sandra Bronk, Warden, Precinct 1. Gladys Nealon, Warden, Precinct 3. Susan Mintz, Kathleen Sachs, Joanne Rappa, Patricia Ann Little, Joe Bouchard, Lisa Lombardo, Jeanette Lang, Pete Zabel, Margaret Anderson, Gloria Mogavera.
Mogavera.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
I miss that name all the time. Barbara McKillop, Stephen Epstein, Barbara Hunt, Warden, Precinct 2, Margaret Weaver, Dave Bogdan, Janice Murphy, Joe Bouchard, George Conley, Sandra Bronk, Beverly Knapp, Susan Clay, Lawrence Mintz, Virginia Alderman, Al Hollowell, Chris Candia, and Robert Sachs.
Second.
Motion second, any discussion on that? Not, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay.
So that's after Labor Day, right?
Day after.
That's the day after Labor Day,
Tuesday,
wow. That's a tough day for,
Vote.
yeah, for turnout.
Turnout.
Somebody
Okay.
designed it that way.
Right.
We want, we have an appointment here, to Council on Aging, Darcy Norton, and Diane
Klobansky.
Klinacki?
Klobansky.
Ansky, okay. Go ahead, Doug.
So, question for you, Janet. The dates that are on here, they're expiration dates?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I move that we appoint Diane Klobansky to the Council on Aging for a term to expire June 30, 2019. And I move that we appoint Darcy Norton to the Council of Aging, term to expire June 30, 2020.
Second.
Motion is second, do we have any discussion? Okay, I'm good. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. So there.
And thank you for being willing to serve.
Yes.
Thank you. Mike?
Yeah, I just have one quick thing for the board. As you know, the legislature finally finished up their business. The final cherry sheets came out, and we received an additional $3,000, $3,680 in additional revenue, but they give you with one hand and take it with the other.
Always do.
Usually more.
In this case, it is. There's $14,003 in additional charges. So we lost $10,323.
That's not bad. I thought you might lose 50.
It could have been a lot worse. Now, we only had $13,000 in cushion. So, and we used that for a rounding error for figuring out the tax bill. That was how much the Board of Assessors estimated they would need for the rounding error. So we may have to cut something from the budget, or at fall town meeting, add some money from free cash into the budget to balance the budget that way.
Any suggestions? Sorry.
We'll see how much free cash we have.
Are we needing a fall town meeting? Finance was talking, they'd,
It depends. Depends what you wanna do with,
because we'd have to be,
depends on how much free cash we have
Yeah.
and what you wanna do with it.
Finance was talking, when do they have a quorum?
We
No,
now have a meeting, no, they don't have a quorum. It was just the chair, setting up the next, agenda. Right now, it looks like we're gonna have an agenda, a quorum for September 5th for a FinCom meeting. Wednesday, September 5th.
All right. Is
That's
that it
all
on
I
that
have.
one?
Yep.
What about the house, Mike? House is still there. I want that house gone.
Well, before I.
I'm gonna start throwing rocks at it.
Before I left for vacation, I asked Peter to talk to
the contractor, because they have to coordinate their activities together. You've got a new quote, it's, it was $14,000 more than the previous one, but we still have the funds to do it.
Yeah, but with it,
How
just that amount.
do we have a quote higher?
What's wrong with
The disposal fees went up. The estimate I got was last December. So the disposal fees for the,
What was the original estimate? Was it only like 8?
oh, it went up 4,000. I'm sorry, it was 10,000 and it went up to 14,000.
10 to 14?
It went up 4,000. Went up to 14,000.
Still say we should burn the place.
So,
Practice.
I won't be able to do anything about it until Monday, next Monday.
Alright, like I said, let's do what we can. I want it down.
Can we do a
Yesterday.
controlled burn? No, we can't.
No.
We can't do that.
That,
won't let that.
years ago, that was,
Well, for
bring
the fire-
marshmallows.
Yeah, for the fire department, right? Don't they usually do?
yeah, but now
They
with
do
the,
like that.
See, kids, this is how you do a control burn.
No, it's for the
Yeah.
firefighter.
If only the truck had rolled over that way.
I know, right? Oops.
It'd be nice to see how long it took him to get there.
But that's not allowed to the fire department like anymore?
Not anymore.
Oh, really?
It's too much hazardous material.
Right, right,
Although we had
Yeah,
the
yeah.
nasty stuff removed.
right.
We have new masks.
Alright, well, like I said, Mike, I'm eager to get that down, so if you could
I know you
push it
are,
forward.
and believe me, I am too.
Alright, so a couple other things moving forward. So we're pretty much end of summer. Do we have our dates all squared away starting fall for going back to 2 a month?
Yeah, September 10 and.
September
and
10th.
well squared away, right?
Yeah.
I can at the next meeting.
Yeah, well,
find out
if you update, all those dates, so we will be going back to twice a month. And actually even, this month we might have to meet again, to approve the host agreement, if we can get it together, before I leave, great, if not, we can chat. Secondly, I do want to, give a heads up to the board that, I am going to, invite Jim Demento, okay, and anybody else from Parks and Rec to attend our next meeting. I really want to kickstart our efforts, and start chatting about, what they have going on in terms of responsibilities, different areas of town that they are responsible for, budgets, costs, things like that. We have to, I think there's a pretty good consensus that we have to change that whole department. It's just not working at all. For me, in any facet of what my expectations are, it's not working. It has to be changed drastically. And I personally like the idea of trying to identify a certain dollar amount to bring someone in to really spearhead the effort, and really kind of. I'm not going to say anything more regarding the current group, but the next group has to be better. We really do need some different folks in there to make things better around here, because we've had a multitude of issues yet again this summer. We've had a multitude of issues regarding East Main Street and the lack of progress that we've had down there. Once again, we're going to go through another season of that place just sitting there. We still have another season of a bunch of equipment just sitting there with weeds growing around it. We have another season of a dog park just sitting there, another season of the gate being open, the whole thing. It's just, it's blowing up, and things just have to change. So, I'm going to start adamantly, calling on Parks and Rec to join us. We have to identify, a plan. We have to identify numbers, and kind of get a consensus on how we want to move forward. So, yeah.
So just to clarify, when you say that there's
Yeah.
a consensus about replacing the board,
Mhm.
that's not from this board?
No, not
or
this board.
something? Okay.
It's
Just wanna
been
make
from
sure
other
that
folks
people at home know.
within town that
Okay.
I've talked to, and from different
Thank you for clearing that up.
groups, there's a real frustration from the GAA, that area cannot be used as we talk about losing West Street and all the activity, that goes on in West Street, we still don't have any place to go. And again, we do have another season coming up, and with the way things are, in town, West Street once again is going to be the area that these kids are going to have to play. And listen, it's more of a safety issue than, and I don't care as much about the grass and everything else. I care about the safety of the kids, and the safety of the kids is not being addressed at West Street. Okay, it just isn't. It's not a safe place to play anything. But that's where we're at. And what bothers me about especially these Main Street projects is there's just there's no, for me, accountability. There's no there's nothing there for me to say that they know what's going on. There's a lot of confusion. Okay, every time I ask a question, nobody knows who has what, who's doing what. We're pulling in people that aren't even on the board that are producing things, with Juliet. But just things have to change, and again, I applaud everybody who's been on that board that have done all the things over the years. I just think it's time for a change so that we can get things done. Okay, so I just want to give the board a heads up. Maybe you have some thoughts coming into our next meeting. Some of your own thoughts in terms of how we can move forward. Maybe starting in the spring, with someone and some of the things we want to get done. Okay. We know about the issues at ALP. That's also a topic of conversation within the same thing with Park and Rec.
Yeah.
So
on that topic,
Sure.
I like the Chief Cudmore's idea about maybe getting some people from Camp Dennison, the Friends of Camp Dennison, to kind of give us an idea of how they plan out their process and how they've, if there's anything that we can do at ALP to mimic what they're doing at Camp Dennison.
Sure. I mean,
so
I think
maybe we can invite some people from,
Great.
from
Great.
That'd be great.
We just know that place has to change. There is there's a couple more incidents that I've heard even just recently, and different people that have been down there, and
right.
If I could say, we don't have much at all for documented incidents.
In terms of what, Karen? Sorry.
American Legion Park.
Oh, about the rules.
We
and
talk about the problems that are there, but we don't have
Right.
documented
there have been
incidents.
two recent documented issues, and
issues, sorry.
and incidents,
Okay.
or whatever.
No, I thought he was talking about the policies about the, that we
No,
don't have.
we have
documented.
two recent
Gotcha.
incidents that happened that were reported to Chief Cudmore, in which he had to issue citations, listen, whether they're documented or not, we know they're down there. I know they're down there. We had another incident on the baseball field where we had people playing there and people were yelling back and forth. It just has to stop. It just has to stop. So enough of that. But that's not why we need a director. I mean that's a separate issue. The director is more for the other issues that we have in town that just have to be handled differently. So again, if you want to bring some thoughts, think about some ideas coming into the next meeting. I would welcome all suggestions that you may have. Okay. Anybody else have anything else to add before we adjourn?
Sure. Old business. Do you intend to put back on there? We were going to meet with the Finance and Advisory at one point after we got the bond rating. There was all kinds of. It was like the sky was falling. And we haven't done a thing all summer, so I just would hope that we keep that on old business.
We can't get a quorum. Can't get a quorum on FinCom side. We've tried. That's why
that may be
mentioned
changing.
So, and I'm hoping it's changing, because believe me, I wanted to meet with them yesterday. And I was also, it was communicated that it probably was a little premature, but, sooner the better for me.
Okay.
But we just can't get a quorum.
That's all I'm saying is,
Believe me, it's
you may
on
be
the
working
radar.
on it, but us as a board, we haven't talked about it since that night, about the bond. So
Yeah, like I
just
said,
wondered
I've-
where we are with it.
Once they have a quorum and they probably need to have their own discussion, first. But then after that, I will soon like to get with them and have that conversation. Anybody else? Okay, you have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And
Oh, hearing no second.
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 Second. All those in say?
Second.
All right, all right, motion to second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, good night, everyone.
Good night.